live streamed on RCTV. And read the Board of Code of Conduct, which the board recognizes the importance of public comment at the discretion of the chair on items on the agenda. Once recognized, all persons addressing the board shall state their name and address prior to speaking. And it is the role of the chair to maintain order in public comment or discussion. Any members participating remotely? I don't think so. Right. Okay, with that, do we have public comment? Public comment going once? Ray, your commissioner. You're not.
I know, well, but these are comments are public comments. So there is an election in Reading on May 13th for the Killam School and the Recal building, both off of Haverhill Street. So if you're a Reading resident, as probably many here and certainly some in the audience might be, vote for those projects. Well, you know, whether you vote yay or nay, whatever, go vote. The implication for Reading, why I bring it up here, is that of course we have opportunities to do solar power there, either on the building through the projects or in the parking lot. So we will, if depending whether those go up or down, that will be an opportunity for RMLD. Second is May 9th and 10th is the bike recycling event. And working with Melanie there on that project. If you're not familiar with it, a whole bunch of bikes get dropped off, a whole bunch of people kind of clean them up and we pass them on to the people who need them. There's no money involved, just a lot of spray oil and paint and screwdrivers and things. And some tears. Not everyone gets the bike that they really want. There's a few of those, yeah. And then any excess bikes go to Bike Not Bombs, another place where bikes get reused. But we're working through the paperwork with RMLD for that, and then working with Reading Cares and the Reading Climate Committee to make that happen. So those two events in the public comment section relative to the public.
Great. Thank you very much, Ray. Any other comments? I don't think so. Great. Well, we have two new members. We have it starting with our new CAB member. So Vivek, you want to take it away?
Yeah. So welcome. We have a new CAB member, Charles Pappas from Wilmington. Any comments you want to make?
No, I'm just, you know, obviously this came about.
Do you want to just briefly introduce yourself?
Oh, I'm sorry. My name is Charlie Pappas. I live on 16 King Street in Wilmington. I've been I grew up in Wilmington. I've also been a lineman for over 20 years. So I'm familiar with the business. Well, I should say the construction. You know, the business is a whole different animal. But we'll train you. Yeah. And I'm in my new position as a transmission planner, job planner. I'm kind of getting to see what that is. I'm no longer in the tools. I'm in the planning phase of for being a consultant for National Grid. So starting to see how the sausage is made, and instead of just turning the bolts. So it's been interesting.
Thank you. Welcome.
Thank you very much.
That's great. Great to have you here. Do you go by Charles or
Charlie?
Charlie? Okay.
Charlie. There you go. There you go.
Right, thank you. And we have a new member of the Board of Commissioners, Adam Richard Swanson. I think you go by Rich, right? And Rich, please introduce yourself and let us know.
Yeah, so my name is Rich Swanson. I'm very happy to be here. I'm newly elected, so newly minted. I went in and was sworn in at the town clerk last week. So I live here in Reading. I've been a Reading resident for about 20 years, moved from Colorado. I'm a little bit familiar with sort of utility work. I've worked as a consultant in that space for a while on sort of supply side due diligence, and also with some regulatory training in different parts of the world through a State Department program that we did on cost of service tariffs and kind of training commissioners and boards on that methodology and so forth. So anyway, yeah, very excited to be here and look forward to diving in.
Great. Welcome, Rich.
Welcome.
Okay. With that, we move to the everybody's favorite time of year when we pass the torch after the election. So as per usual, we have a discussion and then nominations, then elect a new chair and vice chair of the board. So we're gonna discuss this point.
Does the cab do
Oh, I think we're up. No. Oh, I think Vivek stays for 2 years, so he's not gonna. Just the OC for this meeting.
No discussion? Like to make a nomination?
Okay, so
Like to nominate Pam Daskalakis for chair.
Second.
we have a nomination in a second. Any discussion? So, no? Ray seconded it. Yep. Okay, well then I guess we're ready for a vote.
Do you want to do it?
Yeah.
Feels like.
You were-
Would be happy to take on that responsibility if the board decides that's the right move. So I would appreciate your trust.
Well then, I guess, any other discussion or are we ready for a vote?
Did you have a comment?
No, I'm raising my hand.
Oh, I think.
Reading it up.
Anticipate-
Getting the vote.
Then I think first we say all in favor, okay?
Aye.
Yes, you can vote for yourself. All opposed, and motion carries 5-0. There you go.
There you go.
You run the meeting from here and we can even switch spots if you'd like to.
I'm fine where I am. Thank you. I appreciate everybody's trust. Like I said, I'm sure there will be some patience required as I learn a little bit more about the role, but excited to continue to serve. So thank you for that.
Appreciate
I guess the next one would be to nominate vice chair.
It's true. So, need discussion or on who would like to take that role or
Do a nomination.
you want to do a nomination, Pam?
Yep. I'll nominate Bob Coulter for vice chair.
Okay. All right. Is any discussion on that?
A second. Do you get a second on it?
Okay. So then, any discussion on the motion in the second? Oh, sorry, geez. I stepped out of line there.
No. That's okay.
Yeah.
That's fine. Any discussion on
Does he want to do it? Just checking.
it? Okay. Any,
All right.
any other discussion? Okay, ready for the vote? All those in favor?
Okay.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0.
There we go.
And then it looks like we have appointments of the Town of Reading Audit Committee and Sub-Audit Committee members. Does anyone who's part of the audit committee, I think that was Phil, right? So,
So, yeah.
I'd be happy to do it, I guess. I think Phil did it for like 30 years or something, right? He did it. Was he the guy who? Or
It was his career. He was.
Career, yeah.
accountant, so
certainly,
can somebody explain like since he always did it, like what's involved and what's the commitment?
I think I was assistant on that committee and I didn't do anything. So
Okay.
it sounds like a sweet job.
All right. Does that mean you would like to be the nominee or
I will certainly serve on it if your seniority wants to take the first chair and I'll take the second chair, that's fine.
I mean, I guess I would, yeah, I mean, yeah, sure. I'd be happy to do it if it's not an excessive meeting commitment.
So that's what I'm sorry, Dave, to interrupt, but I'm not. So one of the positions is the representative for us on the town audit committee. So then that has their own meetings. I'm not sure how many times they meet.
Yep.
And then the other is that subcommittee that just meets when we review the audit in June,
That's one.
which would only be one time.
can I just ask one other clarifying question? Phil was also secretary, and do we also need to nominate and replace the secretary?
So I just want to check 19, but I'm pretty sure what you guys decided was that every meeting you would rotate the secretary.
Unless you want to,
Have it up right now.
well, Phil just.
Yeah.
Yeah, technically, you would have to assign one for each meeting.
Okay.
Phil just,
He was doing it like he's decades. Well, he wasn't for decades, but he did do it.
So when you say you guys, you mean
Sorry.
somebody many years ago decided that was what it would happen, or did we recently decide we were going to rotate it?
Probably had talked about it, but I'm not seeing it in here.
Yeah.
So it's really up to you guys, what
You could,
you at the board, whatever you'd like to do.
Okay.
well, I'm happy to be the new casino on the board. I'd be happy to do that job. But if you want to go do the audit thing first,
Move up. Are you interested in moving up in the role, or would you like to remain as
Do we,
Well,
sub audit committee?
is the top sub audit committee or are we talking secretary? Let's,
Let's talk about the audit committee
Okay.
first. I guess I'm asking if you're
Um,
comfortable staying in your backup role, or if you're interested in taking a more prominent role in that.
I would be happy to serve either role. If you want to take the first chair, I'll take the second chair and.
okay, that's
so you
fine.
would be-
Is the first one to serve on the town, only the town of Reading's books? And the second one is just to,
One-time meeting.
Okay.
Yeah.
so,
So it's
why don't-
basically just on the town of Reading.
okay, so why don't you take, since you did, why don't you take the point on the town one,
Okay,
all right? And I could do the second one.
Okay.
Meeting,
So-
we could do the one meeting for the RMLD board. The second one.
Okay.
And I could be the backup on the
all
other.
right, so let's read it to point to serve as new RMLD Board of Commissioners member,
So that's
And
you.
somebody
back,
is the backup. So
member to the town. So Ray is in the first space
Yes.
and
And I could do,
Dave,
the-
and Dave, so it goes Ray and Dave, and Dave and Ray.
yeah, that's what I'm trying to figure
Sure.
out.
You got it right.
All right,
it looks like we don't have to nominate, we just have to
Okay.
read a motion. So,
right.
does anybody want to read the motion?
I'll do it. Move, although I'm a recipient of it,
Oh.
but
Maybe.
I'll read
All
it. Move to appoint Ray to serve as the new RMLD Board of Commissioners and Dave to serve as the backup RMLD Board of Commissioners member on the Town of Reading Audit Committee, be effective after the vote is taken.
second.
Second, I'll second, I'll get involved. Sure.
Whoa, jump right in there.
Well
We're
done.
gonna put you in charge of reading motions.
Right,
That's
that's all.
always the new
Hazing,
guy.
hazing ritual.
Sure.
Okay, all in favor?
It's an appointment, yeah.
All in favor?
Okay. But motion carries 5-0. The next one, does anybody, would you like to read?
Read
the
it, yeah,
motion?
yep, yeah. I'm sorry, I'll read it.
Yes.
Move to appoint Dave and Ray as the new RMLD Board of Commissioners Sub-Audit Committee members to be effective after the vote is taken.
I'll second it.
Any discussion? Okay, all in favor? No, okay, motion
Right.
carries 5-0. Excellent, and from a secretary standpoint,
I can read you the section. So it says what you have right now, a secretary shall be appointed by the chair from time to time as expedient and convenient for the board.
So that's just,
It doesn't.
we
sound like We
you
need
vote.
an action.
that appointment.
okay, all right, so I guess at the
I'd
moment,
be happy to do it and be the new fill if you're willing, if that's. if you want to.
And Rich, you might want to work with Rich as well. It's gonna be a great chance for him to learn.
Exactly. I'll be happy to do that.
That's great.
so do we need to do a motion on that? Okay, great, you are nominated,
Thank you.
so appointed.
Okay.
Okay, so moving along, approval of meeting minutes, Board of Commissioners meeting minutes for December 17th, 2024 and December 20th, 2024. Rich, would you like to read the motion and then we'll discuss if needed?
Move that the RMLD Board of Commissioners approve the December 17th, 2024 and December 20th, 2024 open session meeting minutes as presented on the recommendation of the general manager.
Second.
Any discussion?
I think we'll also just have a motion so that we can all discuss at the same time.
Okay, go for
We
it.
can-
Move that the RMLD Citizens Advisory Board approve the December 17th, 2024 open session meeting minutes as presented on the recommendation of the general manager and the board secretary.
Second,
Any discussion from the or Cab on this? For Board of Commissioners, all those in favor?
I think you do cab first, right? But do they recommend, or does it matter?
Oh,
In this case-
it's listed BOC then
Oh,
Cab.
Yeah, this case, because it was a joint meeting, so the order's independent.
Okay. So BOC, all those in favor? Okay, motion carries 5-0.
okay, motion. All right, 4-0.
Okay, perfect. Great. Marketing update.
Hi, everyone. Welcome, new members. We wanted to have a quick revisit to the logo and identity review that we presented last meeting, just to be able to share with you guys a little bit more of where we had explored in the color realm. I think we were all happy with the icon and the treatment in general, the impact of it, but more just there was a request from the board and to see a little bit more. So I'm going to walk through that and open it up for questions. So I just want to kind of remind you, and especially for the new members, some of the rationale we wanted to make sure that this brand was very distinctive and ownable. We want to make sure that it's clear, modern, bold, innovative, all of the qualities that we really cherish in RMLD. We want to make sure that it's crisp and effective and it represents the future. So it was all things that we looked at in the push through this new identity. All of you have seen this. We looked for a nice, clean, crisp, and scalable icon, mark, and type treatment, pushing forward with RMLD as the main, but we have some supporting in the back end. And all of the slides from the original deck are in the appendix for today, just in case the new members need to refer to it. One of the questions was around color in particular. We really wanted to pick a color palette that was flexible, that had lots of visual impact, and that really resonated both in electronic and print forms, had really nice contrast, really nice accessibility, all of those pieces. And then specifically, we wanted to make sure that it stood out. We looked at all of, not all, but we looked at many MLPs, we looked at many IOUs, we looked at the colors that were prominent, and we wanted to make sure that, you know, we were leveling to the top, rising to the top in that. And we proved that through this slide early on. We did explore other color sets, and we'll show some of them now. We looked from, you know, more reserved color sets, and you can kind of see as color, you know, screen to screen does vary a little bit. But we looked at different tones of the blues, different tones of a highlight color, some greens. We looked at some more vibrant colors to see, and played with those throughout. And that's what really had us land on what we feel still is the strongest of those color sets. So I wanted to give the board a chance to, you know, now that you've had a little bit of time to sit with it, to sit with the icons, and that other more questions or any, you know, concerns that we can address.
Bob?
No, go ahead. Yeah.
There were just two things that I had. One is, I know the board last time gave some feedback around the light bulb itself being an incandescent light bulb, kind of noticeable about that. So I wasn't sure if that was something that you had gone back and looked at, potentially tweaking that a little bit to make it more of a modern technology.
Sure. So we had looked at the balance between the light bulb representing our history and our future. So that was part of the consideration. We also did some initial early sketches where we did more of that kind of the line of the two-toned current light bulbs. We actually took photos of current light bulbs as we were sketching. So the shape and the threads on the bottom represent the current light bulb shape that is on the market, from Amazon to Walmart to wherever. The only thing that is missing is that two-tone, which is a kind of an aesthetic feature that could disappear in the next 2 to 3 years. It could go back to a full glass. It could go back to, you know, there's always going to be lots of variation in bulb, and we wanted it to kind of be more of just that icon feel.
The second question is just, I think this was also raised last time, is what do we estimate the cost of the transition to be? And I know you had talked about it being a kind of a softer transition or slower, you know, rolling transition, but there's probably some level of cost involved here. So what do you think what's the budget, or what is the expectation for what you're gonna have to spend to do a changeover?
I can talk a little bit about this stuff in progress. As far as the website, that is already contracted and paid for. We're just waiting on the new identity to be able to move forward with that. We're actually recouping hopefully some of that cost with being able to do some of this design work in-house versus using that agency. As far as any of our digital properties, that's really the time and effort of the team here to update. As far as anything that's print or tangible, we'll take a very proactive, you know, and careful approach towards that. For example, we're not going to just kind of toss things out for the sake of updating the brand. We're going to make sure we're thoughtful and planning ahead. And as new vehicles get introduced, they get rebranded. As new signage is needed, it gets rebranded. So there will be that interim time to be able to be careful of costs.
So we're not going to be immediately changing the logos on trucks, changing the sign out front of the building.
Yeah, we have money budgeted. We're talking the range of $10,000 to $20,000 all in. But as Melissa mentioned, most of these are gonna be when we're actually reprinting stuff or redoing stuff. We would normally order stuff anyways. The only place that it really would come in, as you mentioned, the sign out front, which does need to be updated. It's faded. So the time we kind of helped, we were gonna try and do that 2 years ago, but we wanted to get this in place first. And then when we order the trucks, we will probably, before the year's out, end up doing all the trucks. There'll be newer that will come in, will automatically come. But again, as part of our branding, there'll probably be 9 months of transition. But they're not overly expensive in terms of doing that. Those are the main elements. But the other stuff, the materials, the marketing communication stuff, as we reprint, we'll do the logo. And the other element, as she mentioned, back to the bulb, it touches a little bit on the tradition, so it's not a massive change. So we don't have to do it instantaneously. So that soft transition should be relatively inexpensive. It's already in the budget.
Kind of similar to what Pam is saying, looking at the colors, I know you changed it from that lighter teal to this darker color that we had from the last.
Yeah, I think part of these monitors are not color calibrated.
Right.
You can even see it. All three of them are a little bit different. The print's probably the better representation of the color. Oh, you don't have print. Right. So that's,
Yeah, just the question goes back.
but go ahead. Yeah, go ahead with
It goes back to black, right? We're black today. I like the bold. I like the font. I like the boldness of the font. And I still like our old light bulb because it has the image of almost like a solar. It's a light bulb with solar, right?
I mean, the starry aspect? Yeah, I was gonna comment on that. Yeah.
So again, I think this brings us back. All I could think of when I first saw it was like a 1950s to 70s bathroom with the tealer color. So I like the different color. But again, the light bulb, I think my opinion, right? I think our image today represents more of a solar type light bulb. And so
The starry backing rather than the fishbowl or the cap.
Well, the challenge with that one is it doesn't reproduce at different scales. Because of that, we actually spent quite a bit of time early on in terms of looking at how do we keep that starburst, as we called it, the rays. We had a whole bunch of different names, and you tried dozens of different scenarios associated with it. The challenge is when you go to different size, particularly go to mobile, you go to smaller, it just becomes a circle, and it looks like it's a jagged circle, so it's pixelated. It doesn't look very good. So that's part of the reason why we got away from the more fine image with those. We agree. We like the concept of the idea, but we had to also make it practical in terms of being able to scale and print as well as digital.
We also have the inspiration of actually the rays with more solar, but then we talked about, our logo evolved, lasted for 30 years. That's what people are familiar with. And then if we look at other MLT's logos, they often have those rays, outside of the rays. So ours is actually unique. That's how we decided we're gonna go with all of the
Go back to slides. Let's go back to slides.
Rich.
No, and again, I do like that image and scale. It's printable. I mean, I've seen it. It's printed. I know in a digital era, we should be able to reproduce it digitally, in some shape or form, right? Any shape or form, right?
Yeah.
And then on the trucks too, right? The truck can just say RMLD.
Well,
It can. In fact, I noticed one of them, the fine print reliable underneath. We got to make sure that there's no small lettering on a truck, right?
There won't be. In fact, you'll see in some of the backups, the materials that we showed last time, we tried to mock up what it would look like on a truck.
Just
Right.
RMLD.
RMLD.
That's it. Nothing else.
Yeah, we're doing more RMLD, and again, part of the reason why we're really focusing on RMLD, it's not in this slide deck, but the previous one. When you spell out Reading Municipal Light Department, it becomes very long.
Yeah.
And you can't find it. In fact, that was one of the earlier slides we had in the last presentation. It was dead center, but nobody really saw it.
Right.
And so we're with you 100% that the RMLD is a tighter, more square, and so it lets it be bolder. Yeah. So So we like the tagline and we like the name Reading Municipal Light Department. And the other element why we've stayed with the light bulb, again, a simplified one is light. I mean, we were originally a lighting department, right? So it's still part of our image and part of our name. So that's why we kept the bulb. And the other element, Pam, back to your comment, is that the majority of fixtures today still have I forgot the number, the T30 screw-in base, even though there'll be an LED internal, it'll still be a screw-in base. So that's why we kept that as well. I mean, there's a whole bunch of reasons for it. But yeah, so RMLD, 100% with you. But those, we won't walk you through all the details, but we spent a lot of time, as Megan and Melissa mentioned, trying to figure out how to put the rays in there. So that's what we did. And we did, I don't know how many versions of the shading.
Another thought would be, let's put a couple of them out there, right? You want buzz on your site, put it up to a vote, put it on the website.
Yeah, so.
And
Go ahead, you can say it.
I just, you put it out there, it might generate some buzz, there's some designs, okay, do a survey, that's all it is, the survey.
Yeah.
Come back, get some input. I think it needs some more input, right? Then I know it's your idea, I get it, I get it, and I'm just saying it.
Yeah.
I'm not absorbing it, right? I hate to say it that way, but
No,
I want to change it, but I want it to be a group decision to change it, not.
Good, make a comment. Then I'll make mine.
No, I think it's always good to think that way, and it's definitely stuff that we considered early on. I think from where I stand and what I would always recommend as being the client or working with someone in the marketing realm would be go back to your goals, and does where we landed deliver on our goals? And we kept kind of gut checking ourselves on this over and over again, and it really does. It really stands out within the field. It really feels strong. It feels like it has legs to it and extends across the industry. Looking at other, I feel like since we've had this initial exploration over the last couple of months and then presented to you all last meeting, it becomes part of your state. So now every truck that I see, every National Grid, every Unitil, I'm like, ours would look better than that. Ours would stand out better than that, or ours isn't as drab as that. And it's really even made us feel even stronger about these choices. Putting it out to things like a vote or a survey can be helpful in some stands, but it can also bring you lots of opinions, which opinions are always taken into effect. Are we meeting the goals? And it really should be based on, are we hitting the goals? And if we're not, which one aren't we hitting, and how can we shift to go with that?
Dave?
Yeah, just to weigh in on, I'm sorry, Rich, you had your hand up earlier.
No, well, I had a little different vein of questions, so if this is continuing. why don't you
Well,
go ahead?
it was going to continue is that, so what I heard last time is that all the work was done within the office, right? The management team came up with this.
Well, not just the management team, but
But okay, asking employees.
It was internal, yes,
Okay, so I think just,
but not by vote. There was a small group, but keep going.
okay, whether it's a vote or a survey, but sometimes with this, they go out for A/B testing of a focus group. And what are people's reactions when they see one versus the other? And I think what you heard from the DIOS was, this looks retrograde. Now you're telling me that it's the same as what they sell in Home Depot, and I'm sure it's true in the base. I know what you're saying, but my first impression was the same as what Ray said last meeting. This looks like an older throwback technology. And I hear what you're saying, but that was my reaction, and it was the reaction of other people on the DIOS too. So if you were to put this to just a focus group that isn't the executive team that came up with it or their reports, how would those people react to it? They might be the same as us, or they might not. So I'm a little concerned about that it hasn't gone through that type of process. I'm not proposing you go spend money. I think spending money on this is itself, why spend all the time, and even all the time we're doing tonight and last week and all your time when we're not a competitive business, like people buy electricity from it. So that's all. Some of those light plants, by the way, they do run competitive businesses. They have competitive broadband businesses. Taunton, Shrewsbury, Norwood, and a couple of the others up there are running competitive businesses in not electricity. So anyway, I'm concerned about the lack of external input, that it does look retrograde, and that it's a cost. I don't know, what is it? Well, you mentioned 20,000, but
It could be by the time we do everything, it could be 10 to 20,000, but
Yeah.
it's part of an existing.
but plus all the staff time that will continue, and the sign out front that you didn't include in that, right? I mean, so
No, that's part of that's also in the budget as well.
oh, it is.
I,
Okay.
kind of coming back, we actually internally had the same reaction to the light bulb.
Yeah.
Like we tried to do other things besides the light bulb. And we ultimately came back to the light bulb. Because of going back to the points that Melissa just brought up, right? It does tie to our heritage, right? We are a light company. That is a recognizable symbol. We tried all sorts, we tried all sorts of interesting, unusual things, and we came back to that fit that rationale in terms of what we're trying to position ourselves as. The other element is I've done 4 large-scale brand identities, startup companies to $1.6 billion companies, right? And so no matter what you put out, they're gonna be the group that says, oh, I don't like it. 6 months later, oh, it's the best thing I ever saw. So it will grow on you. I'm telling you from personal experience, I used to be a VP of marketing and I've done this several times. I did not design this. I was part of the team that gave a lot of the feedback to Melissa and Megan in terms of doing it. But back to her point, it drives the point of what we're trying to be as a distinctive, right? And it's exactly, you know, Pam, you said it at the very beginning, right? You found us instantly when you had that graphic, right? The previous one, you didn't find us.
Right.
So we're just, and while we're not competitive, we still appear many, many times in a sheet just like this. And we're this long little thing down the corner. So it is important to have presence. And you're right, we're not necessarily selling to our companies, our customers, because they know who we are, but there are a lot of other people that we need to make sure that we're prominent. So I think going back to, I mean, we could spend a lot of time working through it. I think, you know, we have done that work for you and we're basically sharing, here's what we're planning to do. We talked a little about colors. The colors are distinctive. Black. So there's a color palette behind it. We'll do a lot of black, but we're trying to do a color that is distinctive. The gold was our old color, our former color. Go ahead.
Rich, no.
Yeah. Charlie had a comment.
Good, John.
So, I think especially for our older population, having the light bulb there will help with the rebranding. All of a sudden, if they see a new truck with RMLD, they're used to the Reading Municipal light. But if they see the light bulb, I think that will help them understand who's out in front of their house, even if it's a bucket truck. But sometimes you may have a different type of vehicle. And I think that might, you know, help them bridge to the new branding.
Mhm.
Having the light bulb, you know, just my opinion.
Just my question is, you know, maybe this is just sort of part of the training, you know, for new commissioners or whatever. But I know that utilities upgrade their logos, you know, and I'm seeing that happen. I guess my question is why, like, why the marketing, why the effort to sort of upgrade? Not that it's necessarily a bad thing. I'm just sort of curious, like, why did utilities do that? Given, I'm sort of thinking about Dave's question, you know, it is a monopoly. You know, where's the point? Where do you need to stand out? What kinds of neighborhoods do you need to stand out in, that kind of thing?
Do you want to make the first cut and I'll fill in?
Sure. I think from where we stand, looking at the current logo, it's been around for around 30 years. It was
87.
due for a hard look, whether an update or not, it was definitely due for a hard look. And when we started to look at how it was being used, you know, we just didn't see it being used effectively. We saw it struggle in small spaces. We saw it struggled online and mobile. We also saw it struggling even just doing, you know, point of purchase type things like apparel or giveaways, etc. There's so many that we can't because it's so fine and such an interesting and different font that was not interesting, different, but such a like fine font that doesn't really translate well. So at the minimum, we needed to do some updates to the general aesthetic of it. And then when we really dug down deeper, it really didn't represent where we were right now as a company and where we were going. Even though we don't market, there's a sense of pride, both with our employees and our customers, of we are a very forward-thinking local utility. We are always doing more and more for the customers. We're making better and better decisions. We're trying to be modern and bold, even though we don't have shareholders demanding that. That makes sense.
Melissa, and look at your slide. So if you want to get rid of the rays and you want to get rid of the small font, do that. Just keep black and gold. Keep black and gold, keeps the same thing, but you know, you just
So we would look at,
Go ahead.
we did look at the black and gold as a color. We do
just have this set black and gold.
Yeah, we do have some struggle with the reproduction of the gold. Sometimes it looks tan, sometimes it looks kind of washed out. So specifically around things like the trucks and signage, we have lots of back and forth with those folks around
Fade.
trying to match it. And it fades very quickly.
And then go to the,
And then
that's not-
looking at,
you'll see a
again,
lot of black and gold here.
yeah,
So it's not distinct. That's part of the other reason why I moved away from the black and gold. They're great colors, but we wouldn't stand out like we do there. Pardon me?
So Bruin, it's
Yeah.
Thank you, Bruce. That's a sharp gold. Go ahead.
What was the thought process of, I like the idea of reliable power. It's one of the goals that we have here. Is that,
No, it hasn't gone away.
oh, okay.
Yeah, the tagline hasn't gone away. Right. We're not.
I thought you were doing just RMLD, which is all I know as a taxpayer in Wilmington. I don't know the Reading Municipal, and it goes on and on.
Yeah, you don't, right.
I just call it RMLD. You know, I gotta pay my bill, I gotta do this, I gotta get the discount, you know. So I like the RMLD square, simple, but
It's not.
so we have the taglines.
Yeah, no, we did, yeah, we're not getting rid of the tagline.
okay, good. I
We
like
have
that. That's all.
It's a no cost.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah. We actually, yeah, go ahead.
So as much as I'm sad, we're gonna lose the little starburst that, and the connection to solar in addition to the light energy as opposed to the light bulb. Looking at all the other things, we are about the only one with a bulb. Everyone's got a variation on the outlet, power lines.
Yep.
Lightning bolts, I mean, which are fine symbols also. I mean, I'm not saying that's a bad way to identify what they're doing. But the bulb is different among that grouping, so I can see for the two reasons of it is a takeoff of what we did before, and it'll be recognizable by people. Oh yeah, it's the light bulb truck. Okay, that's our local utility, and I'm good with that. And then looking at the lettering of everyone else, it's all the block. So Roman is probably not going to be the font going forward. Times Roman is maybe what I use, but probably not what the modern people are looking. So I see the block being probably more scalable and whatever. So I think in terms of cost that we're talking about 20,000 that rolls out over time, that's a manageable number. So
I guess.
I'm better.
Your shirt, by the way,
That is.
so you're already
But it's
rolling.
white. It's white, not black or whatever. So you can see it can transform into.
I like the lettering. I think the lettering it definitely gotta go. But to the bolder font, that good on the truck, I guess. It's the color palette. Again, fan of black, on the white truck. I think you're hearing feedback again. No, if the right term is, there's 4, 5, 6 people right here. Everyone's questioning it, right? And
As we did, Bob.
yeah, no, I've been rebranded many times, right? And I've seen good brands and I've seen bad ones, and look at Verizon. Verizon said Verizon, then it went to a check mark. It was like, what the hell is a check mark? Right? It's terrible. The
Fixed it.
new soccer team that was gonna, no more balls in this town. They were gonna launch with that. That didn't work in Boston, right? Okay, things stop. It doesn't work.
Mhm.
But
The Wakefield track and field team was an interesting choice for their t-shirts.
I did not see that. But
Look,
I
They're up there. Wakefield's right there.
But again, you heard some feedback again. If you could just expand a little bit on the thing, just throw something with the light icon together with it, but feed it back to everybody here, right? In everybody that's here, right? I think it was too small of a group. And yeah, you keep defending something. I think we're giving you feedback, and you gave us the same thing right back. I'm just not digging it. And
Bob, we don't, everybody has their expertise, right? And this is marketing, right? It's like asking you guys how many cylinders should be on the heavy duty truck. We don't ask you that.
That's yes, it's marketing. I'm okay with changing it. It's just you heard feedback on the light bulb. Maybe tweak the
Would
light
you
bulb.
like- So we can walk, so it might be helpful. So what you don't have the benefit of is walking through the process that we walked through, right? So maybe we try and give you an abbreviated version of that. I mean,
If we're gonna, well, if you put it to a vote, I mean, that's the.
but I'm.
Yeah, I mean, we're-
There's no vote on this.
Yeah, I mean,
I like,
think
again,
it's-
we told you before, don't change the logo without asking, and you
This is
change
why
it, we're
we're-
not loving it. Well,
this
I'm
is why we're
personally not
here.
Loving it, so that's why I wanted to make sure I came to the board. That's been there for 30 years, don't think.
It has been for 30 years.
Yeah,
We're not changing it
don't
for the
just
sake
think
of
you can
changing it.
change it, but, you know, that's why I don't like it, right?
You don't like it because it's different.
That's, I like the font. I like the change of the font,
Good.
right? That was a tweak, right? I appreciate that, but the color scheme and the light bulb, I don't like.
You don't
And-
like the light bulb.
The light bulb, yes, I don't, I apologize for my opinion, but
So here's,
I don't like it. I like the old one. And, you know, maybe there's a blended that, maybe it needs a tweak, maybe it needs a remodel.
So
That you- so you can
when I say
see-
legitimately, again, I'm not trying to argue with you guys.
Yeah.
Again, this is.
But
again,
I don't, we didn't want you to change it.
No, but hang on. The light bulb, the old light bulb needs to be changed. It does not replicate, particularly in small scale. So we can't just go, when I say this, it is not the, we're making the change because when that was created, it was all print. Very, very, very little digital back in 1987. And the world today is small screen.
It's understood. I think we all got that.
So I don't know, but you're asking, so what are you
so
asking us to do?
can I make a recommendation? It's because this is not something that you're asking us to vote on. I don't think it's something that we necessarily, although I appreciate
We're trying to share.
that you're sharing with us, and I also recognize the feedback is important. This is a slow rollout. What I'm gonna recommend is, you know, you proceed with the digital elements of the rollout and figure out a way to ask for customer feedback on the new logo when it starts hitting bills, website, whatever. Put it in the newsletter. What do you think of our new logo? Or, you know, hey, we're doing this new logo. We have 3 color options. Please vote. Just something that gives, number one, it engages customers perhaps. Maybe you'll get a few additional clicks in the newsletter if you're asking people for their feedback. And number 2, we can get some data around what people think of it. Ultimately, it's a low cost thing. I think we all agree it presents better than what we have currently. We probably don't need to spend a ton of additional time from it, but I do think the feedback should be recognized, and let's come up with a unique way that moves the ball forward on the communication with the customer to also get some feedback. Is that?
No,
That's
that's a good idea.
Great. So we can move on to the next one. Policy review. And thank you, Melissa, for that update. Thank you.
Thank you. Yep, thank you.
Okay, so now we have a cab motion on policy 1.
Right into the motion, or is it?
Are you presenting about this policies?
Yeah, we can do each one individually. Do you want me to, you want to present, or, I mean, normally we read the motion first and then I give you quick descriptions, but that's flexible either way. Why don't you read the motion first? That's typically what we do.
Move that the RMLD Citizen Advisory Board recommend that the RMLD Board of Commissioners approve policy 1 community relations revision 6 as presented on recommendation of the general manager.
Second,
Rich, would you mind reading our motion?
thanks.
Move that the RMLD Board of Commissioners approve policy 1, community relations revision 6 as presented on the recommendation of the general manager and the RMLD Citizens Advisory Board.
Second,
Discussion. So,
Are you presenting?
yeah, I'll just,
Yep.
I'll just give you a quick, we'll do each one individually. So, we have a habit of reviewing, we have roughly 32 policies. It kind of, and our what we had reviewed a couple of years back, couple of months back, is to take that list and see which ones are more appropriate for procedures and which ones should stay policies. And then the policy ones, try and clean them up.
yes.
So in this particular one, we basically went through, probably the biggest thing is part of our community engagement, as you guys know from earlier discussions, to really engage legislators and regulators as well in the state of in the Commonwealth. We made some other cleanup, but that's probably the biggest cleanup that we did. the table in front basically walks through each section, what we did for each sections, and then there's a clean version, and then there's a red line version. So we definitely think the communication policy is important. We think it should be a policy. We have some, we kept the key pieces of it, and we,
And Greg, can I just add a comment here?
yeah,
Because
please.
then some policies, the cab will not have, because if it's a more of an operational issue, we don't want to have an input. But if it's something that involves the community in all 4 towns, the cab has an input.
So it looks like,
So
This
you'll
one
see
we-
that,
yeah, it
That's
looks
gonna
like
be
some of
appropriate
them, the cab has
So,
a motion.
yeah,
So
so-
this, you would.
this, because it's community input.
Ours would, yeah, the others you would.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So some we will. some
Good
we
feedback.
won't.
That's fair. Yeah.
I have.
Yeah, please go
You're
ahead.
done with your presentation?
Yes.
Wasn't Melissa, isn't she the isn't this her bailiwick here?
Do you want to bring it back?
I would have thought she'd be.
There's,
Okay.
yeah, she reports.
What she reports to me.
Oh, okay. All right. So skipping to the the 3rd page of the red lines of the revisions here.
Yeah.
So all this stuff is deleted where you will implement educational and informational programs targeting members of the communities within its service territory, including customers, senior citizens, schools, libraries, youth organizations, professional organizations, civic associations. It deletes everything where we're participating in these types of events. And I wonder why.
Oh, we took out a lot of the specifics because this is a policy document.
No.
And all these items are actual activities and strategies. We already have a marketing plan that we have. So we brought the policy up a level.
These are procedural type things.
Okay, well, I mean, but there's other things that are specific about joining civic organizations, and that's still in here. So I just don't know. It seems like under the logic you just described, that would also be deleted if it's all just procedures.
Well, the reason why we left the civic organization, because that is governed by 164. There's certain things we can and can't. So that's why we left it in the policy.
Okay. I mean, reading it cold, it just seemed like deleting a lot of things that we would want to be doing.
Oh.
You're saying that it doesn't mean we're diminishing
Yes,
our
we are
emphasis
doing
on
that.
those things.
Yeah. We're actually doubling our efforts. We're hiring another marketing communications person.
Okay. All right. So the fact that it's deleted has no meaning in terms of just de-emphasizing those activities.
And I think that's the strategy for the whole policy revision. So not just for this one, but for all policies. Right? I mean, so some things are being removed from a policy
And
for a
put it to a procedure.
procedure.
I mean, okay. The previous page, you're adding execute communications activities across the service territory, but then you're deleting again, like deleting that prepare a communications budget. And so it seems, again, we're deleting things about.
You're deleting it because that, again, this is us trying to streamline. This is exactly what we did with policy 19. We took all the board responsibilities and put into one policy.
Okay.
This budget is part of a budget process. So that's why it didn't belong here. It is part of the budget process.
I assume you have a policy that you need a budget every year that gets approved by.
Well, in fact, it's in
Yes.
policy 19. You guys, so we have to
We,
have to create one and you guys need to approve it.
Right.
So that's where
Right,
it's
right.
covered. But
Yeah.
yeah, so we tried to look at these carefully and say, keep them in one place as opposed to repeating 3 or 4 times. Go ahead for that.
So with those elements that Dave's referring to, would they go into this responsibilities B2, the communications plan that is to be developed?
Well, not to be developed. We have a working communications plan every year. So these things we do.
Develop and update.
Yeah, develop and update.
communications plan.
Yeah, we're not, so one of the things which is communication. We continually try and do a better job of communication to the customer. And so this is not meant in any way, shape and form to diminish those efforts. It's just basically we're trying to clean and streamline the policies to keep policies and make procedures. Vivek, did that help?
Yeah, so I had a question on section 3A, which talks about charitable contributions.
Yes.
So what are examples of charitable contributions that are supposed to be mentioned in this section?
And
It says,
it also, you also had the word excludes,
Yeah.
right? It says regarding, there's some input that when they had like excludes must.
so no, but let me
Yeah.
first let's see what charitable contributions are excluded here. So I just want to be sensitive to that.
I think what this is saying is that charitable contributions must be excluded from service costs. They cannot pass those to the ratepayer
Correct.
unless there is a very clear benefit to the ratepayer. So it's not saying, at least how I read this, it's not saying you don't do charitable contributions. It's just you can't pass them along to the ratepayer. It's part of
Unless they're,
your,
No, so what does that mean? So like, who's making the charitable contribution and?
if RMLD makes the charitable if RMLD makes a contribution to an entity, we have to make sure that that contribution is to the benefit of the ratepayers, not just because we like.
so maybe would
Banks of America.
it help to give an example? Like what would a recent charitable contribution be?
I can give you,
Yeah.
someone gets hurt in the line of duty. And a lot of times they might have a charitable contribution that could go to that person
For family support or
for
something
family
like that.
support.
Yeah.
Right? That's a prime example of something that happens in utility. And you might want to make a significant donation towards that person. That needs to be included somehow in that language, and that there's a benefit to,
If we make that, there would be a benefit. And so what we typically do in situations like that is we don't make that the individual employees would make that contribution. We
that's-
wouldn't do that.
So you're
But you
saying
should.
nothing from the rate, so nothing from the ratepayers bucket is going as a charitable
It could
contribution?
be from below the line, though. It could be out of your rate of return.
yeah, you have to make sure
You have
that
to-
those,
you have to ver- So, yeah, so
This is saying it can't be out of anything that you put back into the rate. So it has to be after you've calculated your rate of return. If you have any profit, if you want to make a donation out of a profit to a charitable.
that's not what this is saying. Reading Light won't make that donation. That's
Well,
what,
yeah, we-
that's what this is
because
saying.
Jason, you're partially correct, because those below the line pieces actually fund the capital budget. So the legal guidance we've gotten is to be very restrictive in terms of what charitable contributions we make. They have, like, when in error, we won't make the charitable contribution, and we want to participate. We'd rather do it in kind services as opposed to cash.
Can I ask, so this is specifically saying that we comply with a DPU policy.
Correct.
And then it explains what the DPU policy is. Is that the exact language in the DPU policy? And does this policy require us to specify what that is?
Red line version, it just says it's gonna comply with the DPU, and then it says that the policy is this. The new version is just
Got it.
basically put what the DPU policy is in the language. It kind of makes it a little bit easier to read. It just doesn't.
The old language is easier, I think is what
Listens
we're saying.
The RMLD follows the policies and guidelines of the Department of Public Utilities regarding charitable contributions and gift giving. The DPU policy is as follows, but then it's.
Right.
Yeah, that's a
So it just puts
That's
the
a
DPU policy-
snapshot.
Yeah.
We'd rather, so if that policy changes, so one of the things that we've learned also is to have it refer back to the actual policy as opposed to try and paraphrase it. Or-
Yeah, and I guess that's my point is, we can change the first sentence the way that you've changed it to make it cleaner, but potentially, or perhaps referencing the exact language in the policy is better than paraphrasing, which is what you are
Sorry,
presenting here in the
forgive
green.
me, I didn't mean to say paraphrase. I wanted to, this came from a version. Didn't go back to look. What we basically are trying to do is refer back to the state laws,
Mhm.
which this is, as opposed to having it replicated here. In case it changes, then we have a conflict between our policy and what the laws changed. So we've been doing that all along to try and take.
You
specific-
are intentionally trying to paraphrase so that it
We're,
doesn't.
we're intentionally trying not to paraphrase, but just, we basically say we're trying to be consistent
Okay, no,
with
thank you.
DPU policy. That's what we're trying to say.
I just would like to take the word excludes out, because policy which regarding charitable, take the word excludes, because again, to the scenario that I talked about, if God forbid somebody got hurt here, Reading Light would want to contribute to that person.
I don't think that would make sense in the sentence, the way that it's written, though,
Well, excludes, but
because it's specifically talking about excluding it from the ratepayers.
But everything's ratepayer based. Greg just said that if it's a profit, does it go back in? I just want to make sure that in that scenario,
Are we sure that from the profit doesn't meet that, because the pilot payment comes out of the profit and it's very clearly stated that cannot be above the line to be part of your rates.
For
Pilot,
just the
the
Reading pilot, right? As opposed to, in our case, the 20-year
Right,
agreement,
but
which
if we
is.
want to look at another municipal like that, maybe only serves one community. That pilot payment can only come out of the profit. It can't come up above the line at all. and it's voluntary.
And it's, yeah, it's
So
voluntary.
if-
That's a whole nother topic.
But yeah, I mean, but if you read, but if you go to the state law, it's supposed to be voluntary
Supposed to be,
and below the line.
and it's not supposed to be a taxable item as well. I agree completely, Jason.
So one could, I mean, a reasonable person could think that if it's your profit and it's what you've earned and you're within the 8%, which is your chapter 164 guidelines, you could potentially contribute to a charity for that money because it's not part of the cost of service. I understand that you might move some of that profit into your construction, your capital fund.
Capital, yeah, which we
That's-
do
that's
every year.
also a choice you can make, and it comes out of your profit. That money doesn't have to go there.
Well, if it doesn't go there and we do a capital project, then the ratepayers need to contribute. So at the end of the day, the ratepayers are paying the bill completely. And so again, if you look at the revised version, right, the non-red line version, RMLD complies with DPU policy, which excludes charitable contributions from service cost unless clear evidence shows the contributions benefit ratepayers and are essential to serving them. So agreed, that is paraphrased in that section. We deleted the actual text. We can't delete the word exclude, Bob, because that's what the DPU is telling us. We're following the DPU policy is what this is. We are very careful about, I mean, we have lots of requests given our size. We have lots of requests. Can you donate to this? Can you make a charitable contribution? It's good. And they're all good things to do. But we are very cautious about not doing those. It's rare when we do them.
What's an example of contribution that is essential to serving ratepayers?
I don't have one off the top of my head because they are so rare.
I don't have an essential one, but I do have something we did.
Go ahead, which one is that?
To this is when we got the island down the street next to the McDonald's. Somehow we were able to use, well, I think below the line funds for that, and that kind of
Pay for the landscape.
We adopted the landscape, we adopted Ireland, yeah, that's true.
So it was just like Jason said.
And you can't, that's supposed to budget for pilot, that's supposed to budget for profit. So
Yeah, yeah. Yeah.
No, but I mean,
You're totally right.
know,
but
we all know.
we all have
there's
to,
a little
right.
bit of that probably
Yeah,
baked into budgets, even in municipals that only serve the municipality, but realistically, if your pilot payment's voluntary, it's below the line, it doesn't may or may not necessarily benefit your ratepayers. Yet you still voluntarily give it. It's almost like a charitable contribution for payment in lieu of taxes. I mean,
Yeah.
to the community.
Right, but remember, RMLD is a little bit distinctive and that we are not, that our host community is 28% of our total load and total revenue. The majority, we are so different. So we are very cautious in terms of doing this.
So what Erica said was that payment was made in the past, but going forward, we will not do it.
We can,
I'll ask you maybe a different question.
we can get, I
People
haven't gone back to that example. We can get out of the adopted island stuff. That's fine.
Yeah, I don't know
That's
that,
the
I don't know that that's our, I don't think that's necessarily what we're saying, but, with the
But that's what
procedure.
you're saying. I thought that's what you're saying, right?
No.
No,
It's,
I don't-
that's a benefit. That's probably a marketing, there's some.
Yeah.
It seems-
Yeah.
Gonna put our logo.
Sure.
But my question is, to try to close out the conversation on this one,
Yeah.
unless others have concern. I assume, can you please tell me if there's a procedure around review and approval of charitable contributions every time they come up to ensure that this policy is followed?
All of those come to whoever they come through, which is typically through customer service, they end up coming to my desk.
Okay, so the
99%
procedure is,
99%
we're
of the
looking
time,
at,
I reject.
okay,
And
However-
politely and nicely, et cetera, but yeah, we just.
Okay. but
Because
so you are the one who's looking to make sure that it follows this
Yep.
policy every time.
I do need to point one other thing out, is I noticed that the red line version is not the same. When you accept the red lines is not the same as the accepted version. So when I've been reading the red line version, like for example, in 1B,
It's a the sentences wrong.
they're different. If the sentence says strengthen positive relationships between RMLD and it serves, and the other one says it's just been edited differently. So I don't know if there's other mistakes. I think we should have stuff to vote on where we have red lines that match what the final is. So I think we've spent too much time on this already. I would just
That's fine.
recommend,
We will push this to next month.
Okay.
That's fine.
I mean, I don't want to,
My apologies for
Yeah.
the small error.
All right.
Go next one.
I haven't looked to see if there's others.
Yeah, so we have a policy on communications and community engagement, and in this revision, the chapter on community relations is being dropped. Now, I get that we don't want the laundry list here. And I think I heard they are doing community relations programmings, but that is something that's somewhere else.
It's a responsibility of one of the several staff members.
So,
It's not the one
But-
not doing it.
but I
That's
guess
the
I'm
policy.
I'm missing why we still can't have a 6 that says RMLD to develop and implement various educational and informative programs targeting members
agree
of the
with that.
community. Particularly given that it's a policy that talks about community engagement.
Yes.
And it doesn't have to be list all of the places that, not limited to and have this laundry list. We
Yeah, 'cause
can
you see
take
the
that out, but you're gonna create a program, informative program. You say you've got staff committed to doing it, so I guess I'm not sure why we're losing that heading or can't have a.
It's not that we're losing responsibilities, but you want to put it back in, we can do it. So we'll go back, we'll double check the.
At a high level, I get at a high level.
I'm good.
Okay, so for policy 1, we're gonna punt that one to
May.
next month when
We'll double check
the
red lines.
red lines, and we'll add back in the first 2 lines of that 6A.
Yeah.
Okay, any other discussion on this one?
I think at the first comma should be fine.
Okay,
For comment.
so what do we do when we just decided to vote? Is
Let's move on.
there a word for that? Okay, move on. All right, policy 3.
Should I read it?
Sure, that'd be great. Thanks.
All right. I'm into it. Move that the RMLD Board of Commissioners, on the recommendation of the General Manager, dissolve Policy Safety Committee, and that some components of this policy as presented will be incorporated into RMLD's safety procedures.
So the discussion on this one is we have an active safety program. As those of you that are involved in the industry, right, safety is first and foremost, right? It's ahead of reliability, low cost and on carbon. We have a safety program that's in place. It's run by the general line foreman. They meet monthly. Anytime there's an issue, we review the issue, what happened, lessons learned, etc. So it is actually a procedure. The procedure, we updated the procedure from version 0 to version 1. That's also in your book. So we basically, the concept of removing this from a policy is that it's really an internal procedure that we follow and we have in place. That's kind of the bottom line. It's very important.
Any discussion?
Good.
Read the motion.
We did read it.
Second the motion.
Seconds.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
Go. What?
Any discussion on this one? Okay, ready for the vote? All in favor? Aye.
Right.
Okay, 5-0. All right, policy 10 fraud.
So on policy 10 fraud, we had some, I want to request that we hold that to the next meeting.
Okay,
There's some details that we want to walk through on that one before we present that to you, the boards to consider.
Greg, one comment on that. I noted
On
that
fraud,
on fraud, the old section 7 whistleblower protection was stricken out.
It was captured somewhere else. Yep. Moved up.
Was it moved? It
Yeah.
was moved up and then
Yeah.
it won't.
Joint reporting the suspicion of fraud will be protected to the full extent.
Okay, never mind.
we got some cleanup to do on that one.
Yep. Okay.
okay, policy 17 tuition reimbursement. You want to review this one today?
Yes, please.
Okay, would you like to read the motion?
Move that the RMLD Board of Commissioners, on the recommendation of the General Manager, approve Policy 17 tuition reimbursement, revision 5 as presented, and that some components of this policy will be incorporated into RMLD's tuition reimbursement procedure.
Okay, we have a second.
I'll second that. Yep.
Thanks.
Okay, again, with the concept, so we think that this one should stay as a policy. We did do some cleanup associated with it. We moved some of the pieces to procedures. The one probably big changes that we made is we removed part-time employees from being eligible. We have, at any given time, there's at least one individual who's, at least one, sometimes two, that are involved in tuition reimbursement. So it's a program that's actually utilized, and we're a big supporter of encouraging advanced education, whether it's bachelor's or some cybersecurity, whatever it might be.
How many part-time employees have taken advantage of the tuition reimbursement in the past? None. So that's
We only
why
have
you're,
a part-time employee.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's not, it just, as we looked at it, we're like,
is it something where in the future, if you had a part-time employee, would they petition to have it, or is it a hard no?
I think it's a hard no. Again, we're looking at rate, so we're a big believer in it.
Mhm.
But we're making an investment. Our view is it's a full-time employee that's going to be here for a while. There's no, we just thought that part-time didn't belong.
Great, one quick question. Is there a limit on how much from a budget point of view that you're willing to spend per employee or across the organization?
It has to be approved ahead of time. But we tend not to put limit. The numbers are not significant because people usually do one course at a time. So we really haven't put any cap on it. And it hasn't been onerous for us. And we're a strong proponent of continuing education of one form or another.
There are certain requirements that they have to meet. It has to be fully credited, that they have their grade has to be above certain level. So some people may not finish, but they would take some courses. That's our experience so far.
One quick on the responsibilities. I know we push down the approval lower into the company, right? I'm just saying it shouldn't not necessarily go to you as the GM, maybe to the director of HR. I'll approve I'll agree with what they're taking, and then it comes to me, I approve it. Maybe you take yourself out of that, get enough things on your plate. I don't know how often it occurs where it becomes necessary, but I don't see it requiring GM approval to take a class. I think either the director of the HR or.
Yeah, she does. So she processes all of it. Again, I've got to sign on all, like you guys do too. I have to sign on everything anyways. Yeah, good. Thank you. It's helpful, but it's not in the grand scheme of things. I used to find this, like, I still sign the rebate letters that go out. It's a fun part of the job.
Yep.
Here's a check for $3,500. It has a cover letter from RMLD.
Yep.
We don't want you not to have fun, Greg.
Yeah, no, it's a positive element of the job. Like, it brings a smile to people's faces.
The only thing I would say, I get that there haven't been part-time employees that have taken us up on that program. In the event, like, we don't speak to it at all, it seems, in this policy now. It's full-time employees and it excludes interns and.
Oh, yeah,
that.
Right.
Get that. We don't make any comment. Maybe it's just part-time employees will be considered on an ad hoc basis or something. I would hate to have a part-time employee who's a great employee who wants to further their education and maybe become a full-time employee, not have that opportunity here, just because we don't speak to it at all, or it's a hard no.
I mean, it's not going to move the needle one way or the other. If you want to put part-time back in, we can put part-time back in. I'm flexible on that one.
Again, my feedback is, yeah, it would be great to have some mechanism where if that case happens and it's something that somebody wants to do, they have a mechanism for requesting that, and it's not an
Prorated?
immediate hard no.
Could you prorate it to their level of?
I don't even think, I don't even know that I would
I think so.
make that statement right now. I just
We'll
give
leave it in the
them
note.
a path.
And we'll give them a path. I think I like that. That's actually a good way to do it. Pam, good suggestion. Okay.
Most of your part-time people would only stay 6 months anyway, so not here for like 3 years, are they?
We have some that are here, depending upon where they are in their stage of life, that part-time works for them. We have an individual in the purchasing team that is in that category, and will probably be here for another 5 years. He's been here for 3. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
so-
they're infrequent. I mean, they're not, it's not common.
Right.
We don't have a lot of part-time positions in general, because we have to create the part-time position if we're gonna have one, and we tend not to. But just, again,
No, it's part-time has to fill in part-time and
Yeah, it's just-
it's terrible.
it can
I-
be. They're
Some
good points
roles
and
are
bad.
great fits for part-time and
Yeah,
some
yeah.
employees are fantastic and part-time works, you want to hang on to them. And I think that's
Oh,
the
excuse me.
point around,
This individual is wonderful.
yeah, we don't, I'm sure there are many who are, and, we would want all of them to have the opportunity to further education that's related to RMLD
We're-
if they want that.
We are massive supporters of education. Any other stuff?
Okay, so it would be, we would have to add as amended or in terms of adding back the path for part-time to the policy.
As amended. We'll create a B4,
Okay.
3B4,
Is there further discussion on that?
path for part-time.
Does anybody have a problem with that? No. Okay. Sorry, that's probably not the right language to use. Does anybody have a problem with that? But
A problem with that?
I'll get, exactly, I'll get better. at it, I
Yeah.
promise.
Good question.
Problem with that?
You got a problem with that?
Okay,
What are you looking at?
all in favor? Okay, motion carries 5-0.
Thank you.
No problem. Okay, dress standards policy 23.
Yeah, I don't want to monopolize anything here, but
This is good.
You-
training.
Your reading is good.
Sorry.
Just wait till we get to procurement requests.
That's really.
Those are fun.
Tongue twisters. Yeah.
Move that the RMLD Board of Commissioners, on the recommendation of the general manager, dissolve policy 23 dress standards, and that some components of this policy as presented will be incorporated into RMLD's clothing procedure.
Clothing procedure.
What's clothing?
That's exactly what we did. We created, it's in there, we created a clothing procedure. We updated it to reflect administrative people that are inside the building as well as those that need protective gear as well. Again,
Sorry, is the document we're looking at that says RMLD policy number 23 dress standards, the procedure?
So they didn't get the procedures correct.
oh, I'm so sorry. Okay,
Everything in this. Actually, I'm not gonna say that.
Can you throw it up on the screen?
So you're saying you're getting rid of this?
we're removing the policy.
Yeah.
And we updated the clothing procedure. OP 15R1. It's got a number.
And I'm sure there's,
Put that on a t-shirt.
OP. I'll catch up with you at 9.
oh no, I'm not allowed to wear a shirt with a stain on it.
Oh, my shirt says stains on. it. I'd be naked. Happy.
That's not
I think that's
authorized
also
either,
not allowed.
nor safe in many cases. Yeah,
Oh.
is it?
I gotta transfer this. one.
Oh, you got transferred over, yeah. I mean, it basically, there's acceptable attire, items to avoid, grooming standards, exceptions, additional requirements for field work. And then specific things for line workers, hearing protection, fall protection, arc flash protection, respiratory, high visibility, specialized tools. So there's 2.5 pages
Yeah.
of procedures. It's a procedure. I mean, it's
Sure.
Yeah.
I assume, I've never read this one before. I assume this passes legal muster in terms
Oh,
of
yeah.
you're able to tell people they can't wear shorts below a certain part of their thigh or whatever. You're actually allowed to do that under the law. And as long as you're saying yes, then yeah, fine.
we
Yeah.
read this.
Okay, so, did we read this one?
Yep, you did.
We did, okay. All in favor? Okay, motion carries 5-0. Vehicle use.
Move that the RMLD Board of Commissioners, on the recommendation of the general manager, dissolve policy 31 vehicle use, and that some components of this policy as presented will be incorporated into RMLD's vehicle use procedure.
Same idea.
Yep, second.
I'll second it.
Yeah, exact same idea. So we actually updated, we do have we had an existing vehicle use procedure. And I will let you know that I have it here in the procedure, but, it does have a provision relative to aftermarket products, including stickers,
including stickers? Okay, good.
But-
So,
It's a procedure, not a policy, is the fundamental.
right. Which in terms of the enforcement,
Equally severe.
okay,
I mean, depends upon the situation, but
yeah. What elements did you not move to the procedure?
Well, I think,
We just did this policy pretty recently.
Okay, I'm just reacting to some elements got moved to in the some components of this policy in the motion that we just read.
I think they're all,
So if we were to,
it's comprehensive.
okay,
I mean, it's literally, it's 6 pages plus a.
so if we can amend to say, and that all components of this policy as presented will be incorporated into the vehicle use procedure, that would be accurate.
And the reason I'm pausing is on the element of if it's covered someplace else, it might not be in this, say in an operating procedure as opposed to the vehicle use operating procedure. I'm okay with that amendment. You follow what I'm saying?
So there's different procedures.
We have lots of,
different
we have
ones.
lots of procedures.
Well, regarding vehicle use.
No, there's one vehicle use procedure, but again, I haven't done, I have looked at this a month ago, Rich, to be honest, and so I'm just trying to remember which ones, if there's anything that didn't make it. I'm pretty sure all of this stuff made it, back to Erica's comment. But if they didn't make it into this one, they would have made it somewhere else. They're all useful pieces. So I'm okay with that amendment.
Sorry, I can confirm for the review that we did internally that all statements from the previous policy are in the current.
There you go. Okay, so no need for the amendment. You can add it if you want, but it doesn't.
Yeah, let's just amend it, just
Totally fine.
the word. Okay, any further discussion on that one? Okay, all those in favor? Okay, motion carries 5-0. And sorry. Oh, fraud one, sorry, we passed through that, so that's why that was the only other one for
We,
cab.
we
Okay,
pushed 2 of them to next month.
yep, I was expecting another cab one, so, okay. Okay, procurement requests.
All right, this is for the substation transformer assembly project. Move that IFB 2025-01 for Wilmington Substation Transformer Assembly Project be awarded to Transfluid Services, Inc. for $164,800 pursuant to MGL C3039M as the lowest responsible and eligible bidder on the recommendation of the general manager.
For a second. Bob, thanks.
So for discussion, as you guys know, we took delivery last week of the first of 2 transformers for the new substation, Station 6. The second one is due in at the end of this week, theoretically, if not early next week. This particular bid is for the assembly. They came broken down, for lack of a better expression, so they can be shipped. There's a lot of pieces of equipment that hang off them. The bids was sent out to 26 companies. We had 5 respondents, 4 were responsive. This particular company that we're awarding to Transfluid Services, they're based in Houston. They've got 25 years of experience in terms of transformer and substation equipment across North America. They met the technical requirements. We contacted their references. They all had positive references to work with. And so our recommendation is to go with Transfluid. Yes, go ahead, Vivek.
Transformers, the prices were all over the place, right? So
Well, not-
what, so how, in terms of what we budgeted, where did this come out in terms of the budget?
We know, the capital budget for this item was $300,000.
'Cause that's what I thought, because
Yeah, we put it right. So we've, as a practice, we put it right on the bid request. You know, as you'll see, so there were 2 bids that were relatively speaking close to each other. And then the other 3 were higher. Well, one of them was way high, but that's it. But the other 2 were higher. The last one didn't qualify anyways. So I mean, in terms of bids, the 164 to 237, while it seems like a lot, it's not a massive range for a project like this.
Can you, just from, again, my own edification, can you outline just briefly, a high level, how you do these bids? You said you sent them out to a certain number of companies. So this isn't, in this case, this is not an open bid. This is, you have a list of vendors that.
But we do post it on, so it's all posted on the website, but we also proactively send it out to people that we know would be, well, that we think would be interested.
Okay, and then when bidders come back.
There's a
what's
due
your
date.
review? What's your review sort of process?
So for most projects like this, before we send the bid out, we create a technical spec. We create the technical spec is an evaluation team that creates the spec, and then they'll go back and look at it after the fact.
And they score it against those specs.
They score it against the specs. We typically look at capabilities first and then price second. Typically, not always, but typically, if it's excavation services, there are excavation services, so there's not really a technical evaluation, but you'll see that in just a moment. So that's basically, we're basically approving an hourly rate. But in this particular case, yeah, we go through there's a outbound process and a posting process and an evaluation that comes back.
Okay, yeah, that's great. Was it surprising that only four came back compliant? Is that what you said?
Yes, sir.
Out of the 25 that you sent out?
Correct.
And no open submissions, unsolicited submissions?
I don't know that for certain, to be honest. But we will typically average 2 to 5 responses to any individual bid we do.
Okay.
We're we're a larger MLP, but we're not an IOU.
Right.
But the other element about MLPs is we pay promptly and we're on credit risk. And we do have, particularly now, there's a lot of recurring business. So you'll see in a few moments that sometimes the existing incumbent will, because we have to, depend upon the length of the contract, typically contracts are no more than 3 years, sometimes they're 1 year, with 2 opportunities for automatic renewal as well, depending upon how good we find them to be.
Okay, no, that's helpful. Thank you.
Good.
Any discussion? Okay, ready for the vote? All those in favor? 5-0. Motion carries. Okay. And next one.
IFB 2025-07 electric utility excavation services. So this says move that the IFB 2025-07 for electrical utility excavation services for hourly rates be awarded to Tim Zanelli Excavating LLC pursuant to MGLC 3039M as the lowest responsible and eligible bidder on the recommendation of the general manager. Contract is for a 1-year term with the option for RMLD to renew the contract for a maximum of 2 1-year renewal terms.
We have a second? Thanks, Dave.
Great. So discussion. We do this on a regular basis. These are for excavation services as needed. So we're actually approving an hourly. That's the way the bid was structured. We've done we do this on a regular basis. This particular template seems to work well for us and for the people that bid. It's not only regular utility excavation, but emergency excavation services as well. They would also cover, for example, if our equipment is not able to set a pole or whatever. So we will, depending upon what it is, but it's basically excavation services. It was sent out to 23 companies, 8 responded, 7 were responsive, and the lowest ended up being Tim Zanelli Excavating Services. They've been servicing us for a couple of years now. They do a particularly good job. They're very responsive. And in this case, it's bid on the lowest, it's an excavation services and they're responsive. So if they, for some reason, stop being responsive to us, then we will end the contract at the end of the first year, but they've been very helpful for us.
Additional discussion? Okay, ready for the vote? All those in favor? Motion carries 5-0. All right, one more. Free charge point electric vehicle DC fast chargers.
Move that RFQ 2025-11 for 3 charge point electric vehicle DC fast chargers be awarded to Voltrek LLC in the amount of $1,500 pursuant to MGLC 30B 22 as the lowest responsible vendor on the recommendation of the general manager.
Second, yeah, sorry.
Sorry.
Discussion on this one.
Is it, so that's, is that 33 grand each or 106 grand each?
Total for all three.
That seems like a good price. It seems like they used to be a lot more expensive than that.
One was,
One was 100,000, right?
but there's a difference.
Yeah, this one has a slightly lower power, but we're gonna
Oh.
pair them.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
so it might still get up to like over 100 kilowatt.
So these are DC fast chargers, but they're 60 kW. Level twos are somewhere between typically 10 to 20 kWs. But there's, so these are less expensive.
Level twos are more like 6,000 watts.
Level 2 is 7.2.
Yeah, so we're 7, yeah.
Or
they're not-
So some,
up to 12.
and some of the, aren't the ABB ones 20? I'm pretty sure that. Okay, so we'll check the specs, but
Yeah.
less than 10 are level twos. Anyways, these are 60. The ABB ones, the two previous ones that we purchased were up to 175
Oh.
kW, so faster.
Oh yeah, the 60 seems like plenty.
We
Yeah.
agree, and we thought the price was good, and again, we're not rushing to install a whole bunch of them, but we
Right.
agree that at the price point, so we plan to install the first one literally in front, so we'd have a DC fast as well as the L2s that we have out front as well. And then the other two, we have a couple sites that we're looking at for that as well.
What's the business model on these?
So the business model is a combination of, so so we put together a DC fast rate last July,
June.
July, a year ago. So in this particular case, we would own the asset. It's not too expensive. We don't mind if other people own the asset instead of us. But
But these assets we own, there's no grants on these or,
no grants on these.
okay.
Yeah, there's no grants. on
Because I know
these.
there's some Navy grants which are at risk, so that's why.
Yeah, well, we had applied for, there was, last year, there was a $5.3 million grant that we were in the running for, but it all went to Boston. It got focused in the Boston.
City.
And
Yes,
and
it's
you
paid-
collect revenue on
Yes.
it too?
Yeah.
What are you charging per kilowatt hour for,
Right now it's 20 cents,
Okay.
but we are going to change that.
to higher?
That's level
Very
two.
likely.
Higher.
That's good. It should be higher.
Yeah, it should. It was very low, but I think initially the idea is just really, it's used as an educational tool,
Right.
right, to motivate people to buy EVs so that we don't need to buy a charger, so they
Right.
can
Mhm.
charge in public chargers.
So-
But after this procurement, we're gonna review how we're gonna invest in new EV chargers.
When are we anticipating these to get delivered?
I think they're in stock, actually.
They're
Oh,
in
okay.
stock, yeah.
They're in stock, okay.
So this, in essence, we'd have to spare them,
We plan to deploy all three of them.
all three. Okay.
If we have to, you know, if we
had
have,
to move one.
if we had to move one, we
Probably. Sorry.
In the case that one does get wrecked, we
Correct.
we don't have, we don't,
we have a spare, we have the equivalent of a spare, although we'll put it
Yeah.
into service.
Okay.
The one we probably would, we anticipate putting two together at a retail establishment. There's two that we're looking at specifically. If one of those got hit or whatever, we would probably take the one out here and move it over there until we got that one fixed.
Yeah.
Most likely. But we'll see. I mean, we're gonna go back to the use. We go through phases of utilization on the ones that are out front here. They go through phases where they're all the utilization's high and then it slows down. So again, as Megan mentioned, we're learning in terms of installation and wear, but.
And is this, so you mentioned you own these assets.
Yep.
I'm sure you've explored other models, right? Of
Somebody else owning them.
somebody else
Yeah.
owning them, but that doesn't pencil out as well. for
Yeah, we
utility?
actually work with municipalities like that we serve 4 towns, so we
Right.
try to convince them to invest.
And they were like, well, you guys do
So,
it.
so that was the other option, is having the towns own them.
For public chargers, that would be the, yeah, that's the.
And then
other
is
idea.
there also
Or
a
third
model
parties,
where the
yeah.
third party owns it? the
Yeah,
vendor
we
owns it?
have
Other
people
that-
coming to us proposing fast chargers as well.
Yeah, but this was the best from a revenue generation standpoint.
But, this particular, because the price point's relatively low, the payback period is shorter,
Mhm.
and we can actually put one out in front and learn. Again, we're trying to learn more and more from. We have an ABB one in the library, which is part of the grant program. We have another ABB unit back here, which has no revenue tied to it because we use it to charge our trucks.
Mhm.
We have 2 service trucks. And then these 2 would be 2, because they're relatively inexpensive, the payback period would be quicker.
What is the payback
What,
period?
yeah, what are you talking about?
We haven't set the rates yet.
The
so
rates,
we
the
can
big
wait
difference, yeah,
for
we're talking
that
5 to 10 years.
after.
Really.
Oh, it's that much? To break even is 5 to 10 years.
Right, so because of the utilization rate.
Depends heavily on the utilization.
Yeah, that's why I said after this procurement, we'll have to look at, we currently have over 30 charging stations. So we're looking at all of them, the performance of them, and some of them are about to kind of expire, like end of life. You know,
How long do they
in a
last?
few years, 10 to 15 years only.
Any other questions?
Ready to vote?
Please.
Okay, all those in favor? Okay, 5-0. Okay, cab, BOC and cab position statement, clean heat, large building, attachment 5.
Okay. So, Ray and I happen to be part of a, webinar, and we've actually become more familiar with the clean heat program. The IRD team has been doing research on the clean heat program. The other MLPs have taken a much stronger stance against CHP, large building reporting, advanced clean trucks. Our view, and again, we'd like this to be a letter from you guys, so it'd have to be your view as well, but we believe that the MLP business model is a superior business model in terms of serving electricity into our communities. What the clean heat standard in particularly, and then there are 4 different items here. I will let you know that the advanced clean truck regulation, which we've talked about before, as of Monday, that got pushed off another year. So it won't take effect until January 1st of 2027. I think we should still leave it in there. But we can walk through each one of these, but basically the clean heat standard is meant to encourage the adoption of heat pumps. And we've had a heat pump program in place now for 5 years. We have over 1,000 systems installed. We're averaging somewhere between 200 and 270 heat pumps. As Megan walked you through meeting before last, we've upped the incentives. We put in place the zero interest loan program. So we think heat pumps are a good thing for our customers. We think it's a good thing for us. But we think it's also linked to when customers, because heat pump systems are not insignificant capital investments. And so the timing to do that we think for our customers would be when they're replacing their furnace, or they're replacing their central air conditioners, or they're replacing their window air conditioners. The clean heat standard that's proposed right now by the Commonwealth, it would not be onerous to us. I think the current calculations are, it would start in 2026. It would be about 40 units, 40 systems, full house systems, 100% systems. We are expecting to be just over 50 in 2026 is our forecast. So we don't expect to have a penalty. We think we can meet the standard. Our response is really, it's going to create another additional compliance obligations for us. But more importantly, for the first time, it will actually, if for some reason, again, the decision to do a heat pump is on our customer's decision, it's not our decision. And so there's a significant penalty if our customers choose not to hit the minimum number. And the number is $6,000 per installation, increasing to $10,000 by 2030. So it increases $1,000 a year. That money, unlike other ACP alternative compliant payments that stay inside the territory, these monies would actually go to the state, and they have yet to quite define exactly what they would use the money. So while we don't think it would be a problem for us, we agree with the other MLPs that having money taken out of our territory, if the customers decide not to adopt heat pumps as fast as we would like them to, or the state would like them to, is probably not a good thing for RMLD. So that's one piece of it. Hey, go ahead, question.
So what is the objective of this standard then? Is it to encourage you to, instead of paying a penalty, use that as an additional incentive to customers to convert? Like what's the driver to get the customer to
So
convert?
if this is effective, it's a mandate. So no matter what you do, utilities, you have to meet this mandate. If you don't, you get a penalty.
It's a stick coming from the state.
Yeah, so
It's a stick.
It's a stick on
But it's a
national
stick
grid.
on-
It's hitting national grid.
It's really
Because
hard to
look at
Okay.
all four towns,
Yeah.
all four towns get gas from national grid. And that's about 50% of the heating, right?
Right.
So 50% of the heating is national grid and the rest is oil.
so it's forcing National Grid to make the decision to change buildings to electrification, to electric.
It's trying to drive so this is residential and commercial buildings, but it's intended to, in the context of fulfilling the greenhouse gas goal of being net zero by 2050. And the projection of the adoption of heat pumps right now is below what the state thinks is required to hit that. This is meant to be a larger stick to drive that adoption. Now, the adoption is not, the penalty is not put on the customers. The penalty is put on the energy providers, the oil companies, the gas companies, and now the electric companies. So again, we think heat pumps are great, and we have been for a long, long time. We just, this mechanism for forcing us to do it has a couple of things in it. One is it's got a penalty that could move dollars outside of our territory. That's a big piece of it. And the other element is it's basically moving, which for the first time, well, it's these three items, for the first time trying to bundle MLPs into the same bucket as the IOUs. MLPs as a group are about 15% of Massachusetts load. So while there's 41 of us, we're relatively small. We think we do a lot of innovative stuff. We're, our rates are lower, our reliability is higher, and our compliance is also higher. So we're suggesting that our letter is not quite as aggressive as some of the other ones. We're basically saying, look, our business model works. We don't need the push. Go ahead.
Yeah. And to follow up with Greg, there is, for Rich's edification, there's an organization which has been amorphous for a little while. We're trying to get firmer in our structure, called the Municipal Light Commissioners Association, and it's basically designed for us. And the reason for that creation is to do a couple of things. Number one, you and me until recently, and Pam till just a few months more recently than that, well, longer than that, come into this position with very little instruction on how to actually perform it. So, and being able to talk and get information, Greg is very kind in giving us instruction about that. But of the five of us, if any more than two of us talk, then we're in violation of open meeting law. So how do you learn when you have restrictions on communication? So the idea of the MLCA is to say, let's get everyone together and let's talk about policy items at a high level, not specific to any one organization, so the commissioners can be engaged, learn about topics. So when you come back to this setting, you have knowledge about subject matter and then can speak to it without having to violate open meeting laws and learn from each other. And so the clean heat standard was one we just had a meeting on fairly recently. And one of the challenges that some organizations have, and I don't don't think we're quite that adversarial here is
Not meant to be.
some GMs have gone off and said, we're municipal light, you don't regulate us, we're exempt under the law, just leave us alone, go away. If you want to harass IOUs, then go do it. Well, we set policy and we advise the GM, and GM implements that policy by, how he managed the organization. So when we talk about clean heat standards, the MLCA said, well, we don't necessarily agree. We want to take the position that go to hell, we don't want to do this. Because in fact, in many ways, we do. And in many ways, we already engage the organization, the communities, by working with the schools, the senior center, to do green building programs.
And the incentive structure.
And the incentive structure. So in many ways, we're ahead of the curve in terms of doing it. And go away, we're exempt, leave us alone, isn't the voice that we want to have, either to our GMs or to the regulatory body. So how do we talk about that? How do we learn about it? So the MLCA is one avenue for doing that, and I invite you to talk more about it, and I'll get your contact information. You'll be on the mailing list. But that's a long intro to, we did have a discussion about this, and I think the message is, yes, we're for heat pumps. No, this program won't incentivize us to do more because we're already doing a lot. Some of the things that we are doing, we're not getting credit for under this program. And so rather than have a framework which would take money away from our ability to continue to promote that
Inside of
our territory by having tax-free, interest-free programs or allotments. Let's just continue to do that, and we support the goal of getting to carbon, but this isn't the framework administratively that we would want to follow, although we agree with the basic goal. So that's the way a lot of others have framed it. I think this does. I'm not sure about the other three. I'd want to read this more than I have.
You can read it,
voting on it.
Yeah. So,
but nevertheless, that's
you have exactly right.
That's what I,
the other one is the large building energy reporting, and that gets into a legal issue. We want to try and avoid being in a legal issue. If the state wants to collect, if the customers want to give us permission to share the information, we would. So we're not trying to be counter, but the state needs to get permission from the building owners, not us. And we use an example of, we have a semiconductor customer, and energy data is a proxy for production. And energy can be a competitive piece of information that we are very, like, we don't share. We put that in the category of privacy. If they allow us, like if we were to share anything with somebody who's doing an energy audit or whatever on that building, we get their permission to release that data. So that's where that second large building energy reporting thing comes from. The truck one we talked about, I think we should still leave that in there because it'll become an issue. We've got a 1-year reprieve. We'll talk about it at the next meeting, or either the May or June. Mike's already working on it. Pardon me?
5 more trucks now.
That's what, and that's what we're doing. So we got a reprieve, but the trucks have to get delivered. But we think we should leave that in the letter, because just to have additional, while we have another year reprieve, it's going to come up again. So that's why that one's in there. We thought about deleting it, but we don't think we should.
No.
My suggestion for you guys would be to take a look at this, send your edits back just to me, and I'll copy to anybody else. I will assemble a final version with Melissa and Megan, and I'd like to try and get something out by the end of the month if we can. Yes, Vivek.
So I think, the big.
Look at the tone. You go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
The big issue here is the ACP, right? The ACP is the real issue, right?
Right.
So for that, rather than looking at it as a problem.
Say what ACP is for.
Oh,
okay. So the ACP, what is ACP?
Alternative compliance.
Alternative compliance payment.
How they get defined.
But there's no if we're over, we can't sell. There's no provision for us to get it any value.
Right. No, I know. I recognize that. But then let's state it and saying this is not working for us. Flip it, make it attractive for us. As it is, we are doing, make it work for us. And there is value here. Like, I'm just saying there is value.
we-
Someone else is capturing that value. And, you know, that value is going from our community. So is there a way for us to capture?
Under
that
the
value?
current proposal.
Exactly.
Right.
So I'm just saying, if you take it to your municipal group and you say, if you capture the value and figure a way to split it, just split it with us. So if we are ahead of the curve, split that value. please.
If I may, Vivek, so that's actually an interesting idea. And I think we can make the edit on that, as we talked about earlier today, but not to split. Because again, this is right.
So it doesn't matter. I mean,
Yeah, I just want to make sure that I capture just everybody's on the same page, that those, that the benefit stays within our ratepayer base, right? It doesn't go to the state. It stays within RMLD's territory.
But by splitting, it means split it with the homeowner or something like that. So you give someone an incentive to do that.
Okay, that's part of the incentive program.
Yeah.
All I'm stating is our intention is not to split it with the state.
No, not with the state, but say if it's like, I'm just looking from a business point of view. If I want to incent a home buyer, then I'll just, yeah.
But I think that when you go back, why this is all coming,
Go
the
ahead,
rate
Bob.
of adoption, right? Every new building is saying, hey, go green. You know, I don't want any gas or oil going in. That's X, all retrofits, okay. Yet they want the big utilities to now go in and replace your furnace at their dime with
With
Like,
utilities.
Yeah.
utility. I didn't say every utility. You're gonna go around and take out your furnace that cost a 35, 45, whatever it is, put it in, you eat it, and everybody pays for it in your rate bill. And that's how we're gonna do it, right? That's the driver of the.
That's
clean-
the driver.
That's the driver, right? That's unfathomable, but that's what the state is doing right now. Rather than wait for it to happen in a natural attrition, you know,
Yeah.
they're forcing
Mm.
everybody's hand in equally. They're not going to exempt a municipality from it.
And that's,
And that's, I think.
and that's
you're-
why we're trying to, you're
to
exactly
say
right.
you
Right
can
now. it's
bankrupt,
everybody,
you can bankrupt municipal electric companies. When you say 70,000 customers, I got 20,000 dwellings, if that took $30,000 to $50,000 per, we go bankrupt.
yeah.
Per
It-
year,
it be-
per-
it-
But that's what you say. you know,
it has massive upward pressure on cost, right?
Yeah.
Because
So
again, that's part of the problem with the system, is that it's penalizing us as the electric utility.
it's
like
penalizing
we're-
me.
Like I said, it's nicely, like, we're the good guys in this, like, we're trying to make it happen,
But
but at a rate that makes sense for the customers.
But again, if it says you have to do this over this conversion, why am I paying for somebody else's heat pump to get installed? That's what's missing.
Well, somebody else.
Letter.
What is the conversion timetable that they're talking about?
They-
When do those
That
penalties?
they could say,
Start 2026.
what, 2030.
Starts
There's
January.
a certain percentage that you achieve
Yes.
by 26, and
Yep.
then they have another one at 30 and another.
Up
one at
to 2050.
So in fairness, Rich, it's been full, right now, we are above that minimum
Yeah, that's
threshold.
that's what you say here.
Yeah, so we're not, but if for some reason that adoption slows down, back to Bob's point, now we're taking, it's not, a slap on the hand of $500. It's 6,000 going to $10,000. I mean, that's per installation, right? Per
gap.
installation.
Per
job.
gap. Right.
Well, but
Yeah.
per gap is installation, yeah, per gap,
Yeah.
exactly, for installation, installation that would not happen.
Right.
And those are not trivial numbers. Now, again, because of all the work we've done, we're ahead of the curve, so we're not shaking in our boots. But we're trying not to be dropped in, again, Bob, exactly, we're trying not to get dropped into the,
You're gonna be putting a $40,000 bill potentially on top of customer.
Right.
And that's probably a higher number, but if you're already adopted, you're gonna pay for somebody else who isn't. That's not fair.
well, that's another.
That's a whole, but
Oh, yeah,
everybody,
there's a bunch of, there's another set of pieces. Anyways, go ahead.
There's also a whole set of customers out there that are gonna refuse this,
Mhm.
right? And if you get to that set that's refusing to do it and you can't make them do it no matter what, now you're gonna be penalized.
Exactly.
For people that absolutely refuse to put a heat pump in.
Mhm.
Right.
That doesn't make sense to me. Like,
What is the
just
map?
like when we go to an AMI and a radio meter, people opted out because they didn't want to have the RF. Well, for whatever reason they come up with, they didn't want the meter, AMI meter. And there's people today that hold out, that still have the electromechanical, they have to go out and read, and they're willing to pay extra for it. What happens when you get to people that don't want heat pumps, refuse to go to it, and you're getting penalized for it? That's not right.
What is the goal what are the target levels?
Yeah, so starting 2026 will be 48 full electrification. And then
No.
no,
These are number
48
Like
installations, which is, and then
What percentage of?
up to 2050,
24,000, we have 24,500 single-family residences
3,000 installations that's required
Per year.
to meet that. No, not per year, total of the next 25
So
years.
12% of the customers by 2050?
It's,
That's about,
so they have a rating scale that starts at just under
Okay, so
50.
it's not-
Yeah,
I mean,
it
there-
doesn't
it's not
sound,
like-
it's not like 100%.
it's 10%, 10%.
10% by 2050.
Of the,
It's pretty darn close. I think 45, I have to go back and look at it because we've done a lot of certain point. I think it's 100% by 45. But it's not a trivial number. And again, our intention, back to Bob's comment, is we're trying not to get, like, we can. There will be, as Jason mentioned, some that, when we get to 2035 or 2040, that just, hey, over my dead body, am I going to be electric, right? So between now and
90% of our customers could say that is what I'm hearing.
98% will say that. Right now, as Vivek mentioned, again, and this is work that, remember the Reading Climate Action Committee, right? We did those two different surveys, 50% are natural gas, just in Reading, we'll take that from the whole group, and 48% are oil. The balance are either propane or electric, right? So you're right, it's a massive transition now,
I guess, sorry, I'm not seeing the goals by 2050 as a massive,
no.
like, maybe I'm getting the numbers. in my
No,
head.
so based on the standard and based on the current trend of adoption, so I cannot predict whether the current trend will continue for 25 years. I think we can meet the standard. But that all depends on customers actually are willing to convert.
Totally get it, but just the end state goal
Yeah.
is that you have approximately 10 to 12% of
Mhm.
your
Yeah.
single family homes in your entire territory
Yep.
at the end of
At the
2050
end, yep.
with whole
Yep,
house.
That's right here.
heat pumps.
yeah, that doesn't sound,
mean,
okay.
it's-
It just,
If
it's
we
a,
just understand what it is that we're
Yeah,
arguing
and also
against.
bear in mind,
I totally understand the point around
Yeah.
the stick versus the carrot. The carrot would.
bear in mind, this is not about installations. Their standard is about metric tons of emissions avoided. So the actual standard is on metric tons.
Right.
And then for that purpose, partial installation also counts for credit, counts for half the credit.
Are, just for the sake of this discussion and the context of it, you're orienting us to this letter right now. And I mean, at least for me, I would like to learn a lot more about the clean heat standard.
see you next week.
Okay. Seriously.
No, I'm not,
No,
that's not,
I think
that's
we-
not
I think
facetious.
we
That
would
is
all
not
like-
facetious.
No, we would all like to, and I don't think that's a one-on-one conversation. I think that should be a conversation for the board. Like, either you send us the materials,
Yeah, we can do
like
both.
whatever works best,
I mean,
but
we can,
I agree
I'm
with
sure it's online, right?
So it
we
is.
could do our own research.
We'll send you some links and then I'll be, we'll create the Q&A session without.
The framework is on the
DEP.
DEP
Yeah.
website.
all
It's
the-
a DEP.
Yeah, because I'd like to know what,
Yeah.
what we're saying.
You did, yes.
I think
Slow down.
yeah, I think the
What is
piece,
deadline? I'm sorry.
the piece that I was, in addition to the links of what is the standard proposed, what is the impact, the projected impact to us, to our RMLD?
Mhm.
So that we understand, where are we today? What is it telling us we would need to be at, and how feasible is that?
So the impact is we probably will, again, under our current adoption rate, and we are proactively promoting, we'll do more webinars, we increase the incentives. So we think we'll always be above the requirement. So we don't expect to have to pay a compliance payment to the state. However, we're right, as we get into the analysis right now, 2030 to 2035 or 2028 to 2035, we're right. We're just matching it. Like, there's not a lot of margin of error. We're not below it, but we're not.
So Greg, I spent a fair amount of time looking into some of the standard.
Please go ahead.
So that's useful to look at what's on the web. But I think the missing piece for this conversation is, what, like you said, Pam, what is the implication for RMLD? So
We have that
if you can-
analysis.
if you can share that with us, because for us to take a decision, because clearly this is something that the BOC was asked to respond, and was a question whether the CAB would also take a position. And since we actually represent, a majority of the shareholders, I mean, the
Low,
payers.
yeah, yeah.
So I think it makes sense for the CAB to also participate.
I agree.
But I think we really need that information as
So
to,
we'll put a package together and we'll get it to you probably Monday, and then we'll be available. We'll figure out a mechanism to either as a group or individual, depending upon what we send to you, what kind of questions you have.
because if you look on the website, it talks about a $6,000 payment for installation. But there's also a price per ton of carbon, $190 per ton of carbon, right? So to translate that into what it means for RMLD, I think if you can tell us, this is what we think, this is the logic for why we think we need this, then we can make an informed decision for our towns also.
We'll take
more than just clean heat, right? It's also the large building reporting that.
This letter is, this letter,
Which
yeah.
I,
Is it all part of one regulation or is it separate?
there's different regulations.
Right.
Yeah, there's 4 different pieces.
and I will say the piece I like about the way you've written out the large building, you've provided an alternative, and the others have no alternative recommendation. I think it would be useful for us to understand what, again, we all agree that this is the right. thing
Vivek,
to do.
yeah, I think
Sorry,
we'll
Vivek.
try and create an alternative.
Yeah, the alternative, I think Vivek mentioned is like right now, for example, I think in the first few years, based on our projection, right, we're gonna be above the standard and we can bank those credits, but there's no dollar value to those credits.
Yeah,
And the Vivek is mentioning
there's some way, if we can get some credit for it,
in
because
dollars.
one of the things, I don't know if you remember, we had a conversation here about energy efficiency. And like, when I was thinking of that discussion, I was thinking about, and Dave, you and I also discussed, right? So it was about reducing greenhouse gases. So if you're converting a home from gas to electricity, and you're saying we were only focused on the energy efficiency part of the electricity piece, we're missing the whole story, right? So we want to help that. And so to help that, and we are exceeding the limit, we should get some credit. So I'm just saying there is value here.
It's like the RECs, right? The REC, there wasn't a REC market when they started, but now
That's-
there is
It's
one.
a new market. It's what they're
Yes,
developing,
yes.
a new market.
Exactly,
Gotta get
exactly.
together, form a business, and we're gonna start selling clean energy credit based on, and that's where it's gonna go to it here,
Yeah.
right? And
To what
it's gonna
end?
be a new market here in Massachusetts, only in Massachusetts. We're gonna be trading this, buying this, complete. So
I love it.
Oh,
Yeah, Charlie.
crap.
go ahead.
exactly what it is. And
I know.
and
I know.
Okay, Charlie.
How do we capture who does a conversion? So say customer A just calls a heat pump company and they have a Mitsubishi unit installed. How does Reading Light know? They're not,
They have to kind of request the UAN, it's a utility authorization number, because it's an electrical work that they need to get a permit and they get inspection.
So they can
wire
do it through a
inspection.
town permit process or something like that?
Yeah.
It's a requirement.
We'll change out their name for the
right,
service.
exactly.
Then you're not gonna know.
You just have an HVAC company come in, change it over, and away they go. And Reading Light doesn't know.
Yeah, it's
So
very
how many of
possible.
those are we losing?
Yeah, you.
well, you get incentive to it.
Well, the
Yeah, the
contractors
customers
all
will
know
do
that
it.
the
Oh, you
contractors
do?
You get
the rebate.
a tonnage back,
Right.
right? You get a rebate, so
We
it's
do have-
what you're wild to go
If
through.
you're a customer that just didn't know, didn't care, and just paid for it.
Right.
The contractor
Very
probably would know.
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
you're right. You're right.
I'm just curious if we have a way of
Exactly right.
capturing that.
All right,
That was,
so we have an
that was
action
a huge, but what you had mentioned fraud, there's been a lot of cases of mass save.
Yep.
Unbelievable fraud. So it's something that is very important to always keep an eye on. Multiple
We like the
cases,
concept, but
that were
not this
just-
implementation.
like people doing some serious jail time for multi-million-dollar fraud against mass save. So it's just because of, just to your point, someone says, oh, I did it 10 times, boom, 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 10 times. Yeah.
Okay, so, oh, sorry.
Well, I was just gonna say one quick thing about this clean heat standard and Vivek's point about there is value there to maintain within the territory and within the district is there's a lot of different ways that you could probably come up with that. So I guess I would be cautious about putting something that's super specific in the language, because I think there's probably
great.
different ways
there's
to,
lots of
to
time.
think about
Yet to be figured
how
out.
to capture that value. So anyway, just, you know, it might be worth kind of thinking about those different ways.
We'll keep it open, but create an alternative. Right?
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, I know you're trying to wrap up.
Yeah.
To our dear friends at the cab, you can be part of the MLCA. You guys are unique in the industry. There aren't many utilities that have you guys. So, if you guys want to connect and be a part of that discussion where utility policy and stuff is discussed, I'll give you a link or share your email, and you're not excluded from that. You're more than welcome to participate in those discussions.
Thank you.
Okay, so we've got some follow-ups there. Good on that? Anybody? Okay, great. GM update?
Yes, so, I will be relatively quick. We talked about one of the two, so big picture, team members, right? New system engineer started. We talked very, very briefly about this 3 weeks ago. One of the two IRD positions is the marketing communications position. I mentioned before, we are putting a lot more emphasis on legislative and regulatory, and community, right? Back to their community engagement. The ribbon cutting that we were planning to do at the end of this month, we're going to move to the 13th so that we can get more of the legislative participants, legislative participants in particular. Speaking of the MCLA, that joint storage, I'm sorry, there's a couple different grants there. But we did, I'll get down to the grid at the very last bullet, I'm sorry. The joint OCED grant application, that was a project that we are participating in with Burbank, California, which is a public power utility, and Alstom, which is a novel battery storage. It's a long duration. They are still early in terms of development, so we would be one of the pilot installations if this grant gets applied for. It's a different chemistry. It's not a lithium ion. Anyway, just to let you guys know that that concept of innovation, going back to innovation, that we're actually putting our money where our mouth is on that one. Exploration, harvest. I mentioned that one in there specifically, but that was 2 sessions ago with the MCLA. I try and attend these as well. This was basically a group that has a thermal storage program for peak management. So we've actually had a follow-up meeting with the company. We'll do a little exploration internally with the IRD team in terms of how does the economics work, and is it something that's actually commercially available products. So we'll see if that makes sense for us. It's actually rather intriguing. MBU was again one of the things that Vivek, we appreciate invitations for us to meet new people. Vivek's been pretty good at doing that on a regular basis. MBU is another one. It's a demand response for small commercial customers. They have a whole bunch of different pieces, but that's probably the area. If there's anything, it'll be in the small commercial. I'm not as optimistic they'll be a good match, but it's still good for us to explore. And then the Connected Grid Alliance, it's basically MLP innovation with small local companies, more than startups, software and hardware. It's another program that Jean-Jacques is spearheading, and we are participating with them as well as potentially a test bed for some of these smaller companies to actually test their products. Again, not development, not research level, but initial application type stuff. So the point being is we continue to look for, I'll give you more on this, Rich, but we as a MLP are somewhat distinctive in that we are a microcosm of the greater Boston electrical load. Our load is 40% residential, 30% commercial, 30% industrial. We've got a wide variety. So we're just a nice little microcosm. We're big enough to have resources, but small enough to be nimble to try things. So that continues to move on. Projects, over the next couple of months, we'll do more detailed projects, but Substation 6, I gave you a quick update, right? Transformers are delivered, excavations in process. Our intention is to have the transformers placed by June. Ultimately, we're still on to be fully transferred by 2027, but we are partially at the schedule of National Grid. We are connecting to National Grid transmission line in this particular case. On the AMI replacement program, as we mentioned before, right, we executed the contract last month. We issued the PO immediately thereafter. We basically are looking at 2 phases. So this summer into fall is the first phase 1 meter deployment. We'll actually do that with our team to learn some of the software platforms. We ended up doing a cloud-based solution, Pam. So that's actually stood up. And then in 2026 will be the rest of the deployment, and we'll actually subcontract the installation of those, the balance 31,000 meters, because our goal is to do it fairly quickly in one fell swoop. That's being well managed right now. This is the Linfield Center Water District. This is we probably expect this to be probably a fall 2027 event. Part of it is due to the Article 97 status of the area that we want to put the project in. And it's also linked to the fact that the pump station is somewhat delayed in terms of the installation. So the pump station will get installed first, and then we'll put our solar array and potentially battery next to it. Go ahead, Vivek.
What's the capacity of this project, solar and battery?
The solar is about 2 to 2.5 megawatts, and the battery system would be a 5 megawatt system. The other element, I'm going to try and do this on a regular basis, again, responding to goals. So we tried to lay out some mechanism to say, where are we? We had some deliverables in the first quarter. Those deliverables in the first quarter we've completed. Some of those we've started. So basically, you know, the yellow or amber color is paused. Some start, some stop. The green are in process, and then the blues are completed. So you'll see progress on a regular basis on all these, and we expect to get them done this year. Yeah, go ahead, Vivek.
The pause on the last line, long duration storage pause.
Yeah, so that's, I'll probably come back with you guys in terms of a little more detail analysis associated with, this is the Form battery project, the one that we were looking to do. The reason for this pause is just the economics tied to it. I think we've been pretty clear saying that we're willing to, this is a situation where it's a long duration battery project. We think that the economics are favorable for RMLD to invest up to 5 million. But we need another 10 million to come from somebody else. So it's a $35 million project. There's a $10 million hole. And part of the legislative regulatory discussions are seeing that the state has $10 million that they want to invest in our project. I say invest, but in our project, it also benefits a local company, Form Energy. I don't know how this will play out, but we didn't do as much in March on it. We had a lot of activity last year in January, Feb. But I just said pause. It's not paused forever. We have to make a decision on it. We'll probably come back to you with some recommendations in May.
Same kind of rationale for line T. That one was also paused after 2 green months and then a yellow.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, it's
in economics.
Well, no, that's different. That's just basically the timing of having space available to do these projects. So
okay.
Well, when we get to the executive session, I'll walk you through some of the reasons why that's paused.
Okay.
It's not a lack of interest. It's just where do we put it?
Yeah, because one of the issues with Form is that it requires a lot of space.
Yep, it does.
Right. So it impacts, I would imagine, the land implications also. So it's not just the project economics, but it also ties into land and yeah.
Storage is it's a quirky, it's a necessary quirky business.
That system is particularly, it requires a lot
big and heavy.
Just a quick question. You probably told us this before, but Jay, where you audited customer communications and recommended enhancements, is there a document or a summary of that?
Yep.
Okay. I know you probably presented on it and I'm
We
just
did.
blanking on it, but if you could send that, I just kind of want to look at it.
Sure.
Or send it to the group, probably. Is that all right?
It's
in last.
in the board package,
last
so
meeting
we'll resend the board
package.
package.
Okay.
And I'll point out
All
where.
right. If it's in the board package, then my bad.
Yeah,
So
okay.
it was last month?
Yep.
Okay. So that answer on Jay is in last month's board packet.
Correct.
Okay. Thanks. So thank you.
Just one quick formatting question. So things that are like Q4 25 and show as paused, does that really just mean not yet started?
Correct. Well, in the case of, complete customer satisfaction survey, H, yeah, it hasn't been started yet,
Okay, just,
but we're doing.
they want to think about just changing the color on that, 'cause-
to-
or blank, or, yeah, the logo teal. Um,
Wait, we're not pausing, we started.
We did now, but we didn't back.
Oh, back when
Maybe
we
in April, but
introduced-
I'm just
We're now in April.
trying to give you like yellow bad, red bad, green good,
Nope.
blank. We didn't start it yet, and that's okay. We're on track. We'll start it when we.
I'll choose a different color than white, but okay. White says forgot about it, but I'm with you. I hear the idea. The different color
Whatever.
than yellow.
Pick whatever.
Okay, good.
Yellow.
That's, any other questions on the update?
Yeah,
You're good.
am I going back to T again? I'm sure that's, paused in part because we're looking for land and that hasn't quite gotten settled yet. But my response is we don't need land, we need area. And if we get past the, Recal and Killam, there's like 3 or 4 parking lots that become
Yes,
protected service.
There's all sorts of-
we're actually looking to a grant opportunity with the
Yeah.
state.
And I'm not advocating we do anything until after the vote, because if the town votes it down, then that's a whole different
We're-
deal. But
We still want to get solar PV into our.
I no, I totally know that. And if the town votes to issue the bonds, then that means those projects are a go, and that means we can play.
We like it.
Is it a priority to encourage private solar construction using our rebates?
Yes, we have the rebates in place and we have the rebates in place.
Yeah. $100 per kilowatt.
Yeah, and we might go back and revisit that again, but at the end of the day, we're looking at solar in terms of our power supply portfolio. It doesn't really move the needle in reality.
No, I know, of course. Yeah, it doesn't.
I think I mentioned it before, we are working to look at some commercial rooftops to try to work with them.
Yeah.
We need to work through some legal issues too, like. you
Meaning
know,
that RMLD would own it.
Like if we lease their rooftop, what does that mean? Like warranty and
Yeah.
whether
What
we
about
are
just
allowed to
the
do
town
it as a.
to do it? What about,
It's in place right now.
and are we letting people use that to the maximum?
Which one?
That use the $600 and build their own and get.
We aren't chasing people away, and we're encouraging them, but at the end of the day, Dave, as you know, right, because our rates are low, the payback period is long.
For them, yeah, right.
Yeah, so again, our view is the maximum opportunity would be for RMLD owned assets as opposed to, but we have incentives in place, we encourage it. And they're gonna adopt as fast, it's back to the heat pump issue, which is if it makes sense, you'll do it. If it doesn't, they won't.
I had a quick question about the AMI replacements.
Yeah.
I love, AMI metering. I'm just curious, is there a document or something that sort of explains how you're gonna use the data? Or like what's the
There are
plan
some, yeah,
for
there's,
the data? Like in other words, why the AMIs? How do you, how are you gonna? Yeah, what's the programming after the AMI?
so that's an ongoing discussion because we're learning ongoing. So we're actually replacing an existing AMR system. So it's not, so,
Okay, so you've already had.
we've got
your-
experience right now and we're not using it to its fullest extent. One of the things that I'll update you on is there's a big emphasis in terms of data analytics. More emphasis, part of the rate experimentation with TOU. So we're doing a lot of things. We also anticipate using that data from an operational perspective as well in terms of improving the reliability. So there's a whole bunch of different elements. But we are still early in that process. Any input you have in terms of things we should think about, warmly welcome. But it is a replacement program, not a, oh, hey, this AMI is kind of.
Okay, so it's
Yeah,
not,
we
right,
just completed the meter data management system. So we already have our hourly data. We have maybe 90, I would say 90%, because some of the meters are too old or in a location where you can't get the signal. But so we're developing hourly load shapes already for groups of like different groups of customers.
including industrial customers,
yeah.
and so, okay, all right, so there's more.
Oh, there's
There's a lot of information that you guys are already sort of in the works of planning through how those data can be used.
Mhm.
Everything from load shaving, peak shaving.
Yep.
Custom
Yeah,
service.
one of the goals is the cost of service and
Yep.
rate design.
So
Okay.
lots there as well.
Great.
Shall we adjourn?
Can we just do scheduling really quickly?
Oh,
So May 29th is the next one, and I don't think we have anything else scheduled, it seems, so June. Personally, I would be looking to the last week in June,
26th.
the 25th or 26th. 26th.
Preference 25th, 26th. Yes,
Is
for
either one
Wednesday
of
or Thursday.
Open.
Pardon me?
Open either. Wednesday
25th,
or the Thursday.
25th would be my preference.
Wednesday.
25th, good?
25th, okay.
Sorry, which day?
25th.
25th.
Keep going.
Then in July, I guess looking at the 23rd.
Great.
Pretty good, okay, and then August. We have NEPA, but for those who may be attending. The 17th to the 20th,
Mm-hmm.
so maybe the 27th.
27th.
As a placeholder, yeah.
What about the earlier one, the,
13th.
13th, then
Yes.
we have, 1, 2, that would be 3 weeks in between. the Meeting.
we just had 3 weeks.
We can,
I don't,
Sometimes we've not done an August
Good.
meeting, right? If
we
you
typically
bring
don't do,
up
with the past 2 years we've done it, we've just had so much going on. So why don't we placehold it on the 13th?
Okay.
And then, if we decide in July not to have it, we can decide not to have it, but it's good to, it's better to delete it from a calendar than find it. later.
So what are the dates? June 25th, July 23rd, and August 13th?
Temporary
Yes.
13.
and then we have 2 new elected members that need to be newly elected, re-elected, that need to be assigned to AP and payroll. Do you have any preference, either of you? We can share more about what this is, Rich. It's just offline
It's just,
approval
it'll just be
and
him.
emails.
I'll,
No, there's,
I'll be on.
Say,
Rich is green.
all right.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
or sorry, Dave, do you want to be green? Only because this gives us time to train Rich to do the June warrant.
Yeah, so you just take a rubber stamp and you put it in the ink and then you go. That's what you do.
You actually don't even do that. You just respond to
You
an
just
email. Or actually, yeah, you click on a
The
wanna
document.
be green,
virtual
Dave?
rubber stamp.
Do you want to be green?
It's fine.
Sure.
All right, Dave, I'm putting it live for me. So Dave, green.
Okay, so then I'm orange.
You're orange.
So that means that I am doing these things here
Right,
that
in
are,
June.
that
In
are
orange.
orange.
Yeah.
All right.
We'll walk you through the process.
It's just, yeah, review and
Yeah.
questions and signature. Okay, so, we would be adjourning to executive session. Would the cab like to,
Yeah, Charlie, can you read the
Yep. You're right. Move that the RMLD Citizens Advisory Board go into executive session pursuant to MGL C 164, section 47D, exemption from public records and open meeting requirements in certain instances under purpose number 6, to consider the purchase, exchange, lease, or value of real property relative to property in Wilmington and Reading, and return to regular session for the sole purpose of adjournment.
Second.
all in favor?
Rich.
Move that the RMLD Board of Commissioners go into executive session pursuant to Massachusetts GLC 164, section 47D, exemption from public records and open meeting requirements in certain instances under purpose number 6, to consider the purchase, exchange, lease, or value of real property relative to property in Wilmington and Reading under purpose number 2, to conduct strategy sessions in preparation for negotiations with non-union personnel, or to conduct collective bargaining sessions or contract negotiations with non-union personnel, and purpose number 1, to discuss the reputation, character, physical condition, or mental health rather than professional competence of an individual, or to discuss the discipline or dismissal of, or complaints or charges brought against a public officer, employee, staff member, or individual, and return to regular session for the sole purpose of adjournment.
Second.
second, okay,
Right.
all those in favor? Aye, okay. We are adjourned to executive session. Thank you.
I'm going to-